Hey everybody, welcome back to the Let's Talk Q&A show. I am your host, John. I want to welcome everybody who's here live. I'm going to go into the comment section real quick. Yeah, Kevin's here. What's up, Kevin? Actresses of Movies is here. What's up? Glad to see you guys made it. David will be with us shortly. Right now, he's just still getting ready, setting up. He's going to be joining us live from Ireland, so it's like almost midnight there. But right now, it's just me, so we'll take a second to get in the Q&A, and I'll explain to you guys. We'll answer the regular Q&A stuff together, me and David. But right now, and this upcoming Thursday, I'm actually going to be doing a live show instead of doing the regular Q&A show on Saturday. This upcoming Saturday, I have an engagement, so a prior thing I have to deal with, a wrestling-related thing, so I won't be here next Saturday. But this Thursday, I'm actually going to count down from worst to first every single one of Tony Scott's movies, who's actually one of my favorite directors, and something I've always wanted to do was always count down his movies because I've always felt like the guy's always lived in his brother's shadow, and I always thought that was kind of unfair because I know Ridley Scott's like highs are much higher than Tony Scott's, but Tony Scott's like kind of that like level-headed, like even keel. His movies are kind of all the same, and like not all the same, but like his highs aren't necessarily 10 out of 10s, but his lows are not like 3 out of 10s, kind of like how I feel like Ridley Scott has. Tony Scott's more of that, it's a Tony Scott movie. He really is an auteur in his own way. It's just that that way is a lot of cheese, but I love that cheese. So this Thursday I'll be counting down all of his films. I still got 3 more I have to watch, and then I would have watched them all this month, so we'll get into that, but I'm looking forward to doing that. I don't know how you guys feel like that. Last Boy Scout, underrated actress movies. That's a great movie. That might make my top 5. Don't want to spoil it though. Rico said Ridley Scott is a poor man's Tony Scott is a poor man's Ridley Scott. I gotta disagree. David, you're like, I know you can see me, you're like half on, so when you get it all set up, I'll add you in here. Tell him Freddie sent you. Haven't seen you, Freddie, in a while. What's up, buddy? Glad to see you. This week's watches was a bit clickbaity. They say Days of Thunder better than Top Gun, so they sublimely bash Days of Thunder. I've actually always enjoyed Days of Thunder. Obviously, this is going to be a conversation for this upcoming Thursday, but I've always enjoyed Days of Thunder more than Top Gun personally. But yeah, in my opinion, I agree with that in the sense that they are almost the same exact movie. But yeah, it's to take a shaft at Days of Thunder. Most people always think Top Gun's better than Days of Thunder, whereas I've always felt like Top Gun, it's good, but like I like Cole Trickle more than I like Maverick there. But I love Days of Thunder, and also I know I'm a bit biased because I'm also a huge NASCAR fan, so why not? I own The Last Boy Scout on Blu-ray. Yeah, that's a great Blu-ray. Actually, I rewatched that one. I got that as well. I think that's a great Blu-ray, and it's in a double pack too. Cole Trickle for life. I agree. Let's see. Revenge is good. Rico, I just rewatched Revenge last night. Revenge is good, but my problem with the movie Revenge is, they make us root for Kevin Costner's character, but Kevin Costner's not a great guy in that movie. Like, what he did is, like, I get it. Like, the guy who he's buddies with is a terrible person, and they make sure to, like, drive it into the ground how bad he is. But he was friends with that guy. He knew that girl was that guy's wife, but he still went out of his way to have an affair with her. Yeah, I mean, you don't deserve to have happen what happened to the two of them, but when you cross that bridge, you don't know what's going to be on the other side, and on the other side's a psychopath, and that was your own choice. Hard Rocker, hey John, I made it. What's up, buddy? Glad to see you here. And what did Stacy say? Is liking Jimmy Johnson for NASCAR like liking the Patriots? Yeah, and it's funny because I was a big Hendrick Motorsports fan, so my favorite NASCAR driver was Jeff Gord. My second favorite was Dale Earnhardt Jr., and they both raced for Hendrick, but Jimmy Johnson was just blowing everybody out of the water at the time. So it was very much like the Patriots, especially when he won 5 in a row. I was very, very frustrated with that. And as a NASCAR fan, it just gets boring. It's just like with the Patriots. You kind of rooted, but Jimmy Johnson was great. He's such a nice guy. It was hard to get angry at it. So, probably accuracy. Okay. And guys, looks like David's just about ready. Dave, give me a wave when you're ready to join the show, buddy. Just so I know that you're in here. Kevin, we are answering your question tonight. Actually, we both are. So I have my movies all right here lined up. It's a ton, but yeah, that's one of the big questions we're gonna get to. We're gonna definitely get to the title question and to the Blu-ray question for Kevin. But we'll answer as many as we can. Dave, I know, answered most of them. He's got his notes because he's always much more prepared than me, because that's how he is. All right, he gave me the thumbs up. So I'm going to add my buddy David, aka Shamrock Balls, here to the live show. And then, of course, if you're watching on the replay, maybe you guys don't know David. David is the co-host of the Let's Talk Movies podcast that me and him do every 2 weeks. Me and him will talk about a movie that we generally love, one of us really loves, or just a movie that we want to revisit. This past couple of weeks, we've done Rocky 2. We just filmed our latest show that you guys will be able to see this Friday, Psycho 2. But David, besides the crazy amount of film knowledge that he has, he's also the biggest Jaws fan I know. I would even dare to say that the man is a Jaws expert. But without further ado, here's the man himself, David, aka Shamrock Balls.
Hi, John. Thanks very much.
Thanks for being here, buddy.
No problem at all. Sorry, I'm a wee bit late there. Just had to get my laptop now plugged in. I didn't realize the battery was going.
Yeah, hey, things happen. I get it, and I know it's a bit late over there for you. So join me, I get it.
Yeah, a wee bit earlier than what I anticipated because with your clocks going spinning forward, it's 11 o'clock at the minute over here. So I thought it was going to be on about 12 midnight, but 11's a wee bit easier.
Yeah, that makes it a little bit better. At least this way you'll be asleep by hopefully a reasonable hour, and it is Sunday tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to have a few of these as well. Well,
I would like to have a drink myself. I wonder if I can have my wife bring me in a drink. You think she'll do it if I text her?
well, you could try. I don't know what kind of response you're going to get. That's the only thing. I might have to leave for 2 minutes to go and get another one. And
that's fine.
Uh-huh.
If I ask her nicely, maybe she'll do it.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe if you guys do it, she'll ask. She'll oh, Mr. Smelly Potatoes here. What's up, buddy? So, you ready to get into some of these questions, buddy?
Definitely, yeah. You were saying I'm well prepared. I literally just finished doing the questions about 20 minutes before I came on. So,
so you're just all ready to go, huh?
Yeah. Well, I've got my list here.
All right. Well, I just before we get into that, I thought maybe we can introduce you a little bit. Tell about your movie fandom. I know you're the world's biggest Jaws fan, but besides that, what else are you into? I know, but I want the other people to know.
Movie ways or outside of movies and stuff like that.
Yeah, everything about you. Like I know that you're a big Newcastle fan. There's people in here who are like sports fans as well.
Yeah. Well, of course, yeah. I have different passions. But one of my passions obviously is movies, and we do the show on here. And outside of that, I enjoy watching Newcastle United Football Club. So that's we've won our first major trophy in 70 years last Sunday. So I'm still kind of on a wee bit of a high of that at this moment in time. So that's another passion of mine. And obviously, being a big Jaws fan, I'd be very much into sharks. And but my passion is like yourself, John. I've always been a physical media collector for many, many years since I was a teenager. So that has evolved over the years. So from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray, and I've recently moved on to 4K, as you know. So I've always been in that. So I because I have a passion for movies as well, I'm also fascinated by the likes of movie props. So I like getting my hands on movie props, whether that be, say, replicas or basically originals, which I don't have very many original props at all. So I enjoy that as well. Yeah. So how did I select to be a fan of Newcastle? Well, it's funny. I was talking about this at the weekend because the cup final was on, and when I was a young kid, I wasn't into sports at all, not at all. So, acres of movies. I don't know how much you know about football in England or anything like that, but they're football mad in England. That's like their first sport, and they have it's numerous different clubs all over England. That the ball depends on part of England you're from, what club what you would pick to support. But over here in Ireland, the majority of people support Manchester United or Liverpool, and then you've got Arsenal and Villa, Aston Villa. But it was about 30 years ago, and it was the last day of the season, and Manchester United had to win their game to win the Premier League, and I was in my uncle's and I was watching that match, and I thought it was the most exciting thing that I'd ever seen. And of course, Man United then drew the game and didn't win the league. It was Blackburn Rovers won the league. So I decided after that I wanted to support a football team. I just was like, I want to support a football team, even though I wasn't into sports. I'd never played football really. And it was my younger brother who said, I didn't want to support Manchester United because I would have looked like I was jumping on the bandwagon. And because my friends were mainly Man United supporters, they were like, well, you can't support Liverpool. So I was like, well, what other teams were there? And I remember my younger brother saying, like, well, there's West Ham. And my logic was, well, what do they wear? What are their colours? And he said Clark and blue. And I was like, well, that doesn't sound too good. So I says, who else? And he says, well, there's Newcastle. And I says, well, what do they wear? And he says, black and white stripes. And I thought that sounded good to me. So I've been suffering as a Newcastle fan for 30 years since because of that decision.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know what? You put up with the pain and it finally paid off for you. So it's a good thing, right?
Listen, there's no better feeling than kind of like, I'm not going to say, I'm sure there's fans out there maybe get tired of winning all the time. I can't imagine what that could be like if you're Man United or Liverpool or Manchester City. But, when you've supported a club for 30 years, since I've been 13 years of age, and you've been there for the highs and mainly the lows, when you've been the cup finals and you haven't won, when you've nearly won a league and you don't win it, when you eventually do win something, that kind of excitement and high that you get from that it's unbelievable feeling. It really is an unbelievable feeling. That's why people shouldn't glory hunt. They should just stick by their team because you never know what will happen.
No, I agree, and that's why I proudly wear this Mets hat, despite the fact that they've broken my heart basically my entire life. They've never won while I've been alive.
When's the last time that they won something, John?
1986. It's actually one of the most famous World Series because the Red Sox had the game won and they would have won the World Series. And Bill Buckner, the ball went between his legs and the Mets ended up winning that game and then went on to win Game 7 and that was it. And that was the last time the Mets won.
Yeah, well, I mean, 1986, it's still a long time, but it's not as long as 70 years.
No, 7 years is brutal. But the team actually the Mets lost to were the Mets beat that, I should say. The Red Sox, I think they had gone like 80 years without winning a World Series when they finally did win in 2004.
Right, okay.
So.
Yeah, so listen, your team will get there at some stage, John. I've no doubt about it. I hope so. I hope it's that 70 years you're waiting, like, because you'll be waiting another 35 years, maybe.
Yeah, I probably will be waiting forever. Yeah, knowing my luck. And what's it called? Kevin Kruger said, "Are you watching March Madness?" I don't know if you're watching this over there or hear about this, but it's a college basketball. It's going on right now. They're in a 64-man tournament. So I've been keeping my eye on it. What's going on a little bit at my regular Joe job.
No, but just say you asking the question there. Obviously, I'm a bit nervous doing a live stream for the first time. Actually, it's my second live stream. I don't know what's it on once, but like a Q&A. Obviously, another big sport I'm into would be boxing, and obviously, R.I.P. George Foreman, who passed away yesterday.
Yeah, I know. R.I.P. It sucks, right?
Yeah, I think he was 76 years of age. So that's just another legend gone, John. It's the third person in that amazing trilogy of fighters that faced off against each other in the 70s, created history.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, one of the most iconic boxers of all time. Sad, very sad. I thought he was actually a little older than that, so I was kind of sad to see he passed away at such a, that's still kind of a tragic age.
Yeah, it's still young.
So, funny enough, actress of movies said, excited for John to have an Irish vacation for a live show one day, fun streams and programs. Who would you cast as Keith Hernandez in a Mets 1986 movie? Yeah, I would love to go to Ireland. Well, I've told David this before. I'm not a big flyer, but if I was going to go anywhere, it'd be Ireland, to visit my buddy for once.
Yeah, no problem. As I say, You ever come over? There's a room there for you to stay in.
I appreciate that. I don't need much. I need a floor. That's it.
No problem at all, buddy.
Uh, all right, let's do one of our first questions right here. I got to build up the Michael Caine question. I figured we can do this together because you hadn't seen a lot of Michael Caine movies, and I haven't seen a lot of his older movies. I've seen a bunch, but not all of them.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Like Michael Caine is an actor that I actually really like and really admire. I mean, in Britain, he's like an institution, a
He's
British
a god,
institution.
right?
Oh yeah, definitely. He's very obviously he's a darling of Britain, and I remember watching a documentary about his life one night and thinking to myself, you know what, I need to go back and I need to watch the classics like Alfie and the Chris Fail and Get Carter and the Italian Job, but I haven't got around to it. So to be honest with you, the top 10 that I have wouldn't be a lot of his like older movies. I mean, even some of the movies he done in the 80s, like Hannah and Her Sisters and things like that, I haven't, or Educating Rita, I haven't watched any of them.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of those too. I didn't see any of the movies. I only saw one of the movies, the older one, which he won the Academy Award for, and he was in the Cider House Blues, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the other one.
Yeah.
So, like for me, I obviously I first actually came aware of him, and this would make my top 10 would be like Austin Powers Goldmember, because when it
Yeah.
came out, I was like, oh, okay, and then I didn't realize that essentially like the reason why he's in it is just because that's going to be him spoofing those characters that he basically played back in the day. That just ladies man, like you just the most unexpected ladies man too.
Yeah, that's right. That's on my list as well, because when I actually sat down and started to make a list, um, that was like I was like, I've literally 10 movies here to put down for Michael Caine. So I put that one in. It's been many years since I've seen Goldmember, but I enjoyed him and that he was very funny.
Yeah, I thought he was great. That would make my top 10. So, I just figured we'll just count it down like that. Like, just kind of talk a little bit about each, like, movie a little bit. Cause, I don't have like the longest list either. Like, a lot of the other stuff I saw him in were like, I really love him in the original Italian Job. I think he's just classic in that.
Yeah, well, I mean, my list of 10 was made up with the 3 Batman films that he done. And I just want to make people aware that where I've placed my Batman films, I'm not necessarily saying that some of these movies are better than these Batman films. It's just the fact that even though he was in them, and I'm not sure, I mean, he might have got like a star and billing, but he was literally a co-star and he was only in them, barely in them. So that's why they mightn't be at the top of like the Michael Caine list.
Yeah, like he was kind of just that's what he's been doing for like the last like I don't know like 25 years, just kind of supporting roles. Like he's not. When was the last time he was the leading man in a movie?
Exactly. And I think I told a story in one of our podcasts, John, where it was Jack Nicholson. He was working with Jack Nicholson and he advised him, you've got to just don't turn down any part and look for those supporting roles. And the very wise words from Jack, as he understood as you got older and you got aged, that they didn't want you to be front on a movie.
No, they don't want you got to be handsome. And once you get rid of like the handsomeness, now it's like, you got to transition to more of a supporting role, an older man role. And Michael Caine did it better than most because not many people, we can get the middle-aged guy, but to be the senior citizen actor, like, that's got to be tough too, to be like seeing you at the end of your life, essentially always on screen.
Yeah. And the thing there, John, as well, is that prolongs, your career. That gives you more longevity because instead of you, like, it all depends on the actor, I suppose, or the type of actor you are. But rather than you playing like the front and center man, the action man, the kind of, the guy that's kind of driving the plot, you can now play the supporting role of, well, what are you? Are you a father? Are you a grandfather? Are you an old ways associate? Do you know what I mean? Are you for example, let's take for example, just run to my mind there, James Caan playing an elf. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my god, I know. And he was
You could
great in
do
that.
like that.
Yeah, he was great in that too.
Well, Acres of Movies, that is my number one on my list for Michael Caine here is Harry Brown. For me, that's the best movie that I've seen him in.
Really? That's your number one? Huh.
Yeah.
So my number
Yeah.
one's the Italian Job.
Yeah.
So, that's a good number one. I like that. I support that. I don't think I've ever seen that, to be 100% honest with you.
I recommend that, John. It's really good. You should check it out. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that one out then.
I don't want to give anything away about it, but it came out around the same time Gran Torino came out, right?
Similar kind
So
of thing to that.
similar type of plot. He's this old fella living in an old council estate in I think it is London. It's in England somewhere, and there's a load of rowdy kind of youths in the area where he lives, and then there's a bit of confrontation, and it's all about how does this play out. But it's really good, and to be honest, Gran Torino's a far better. I think it's a better movie, but this is really good as well.
Oh, all right, I'll check that out. Gran Torino is definitely a good movie. Clint Eastwood, also another actor who transitioned to being old very well.
Yeah, exactly. Can I ask you a question? Is my camera flickering?
Not on my side. No, you look good.
That's okay because it's flickering. I can see my camera flickering every now and again, and I'm wondering is it coming through to you?
No, it looks like it's coming through pretty good.
Strange. Yeah. Okay.
Can't forget about Blame It on Rio. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't. I haven't
Yeah.
seen that one.
I haven't seen that one either. Have you ever seen Children of Men? He's great in that.
No, I'm ashamed to say I haven't because like Michael Caine's like one of those guys that he's in the pop culture. You know, he's in the zeitgeist, as they say. He's always been there, especially living in this part of the world, John. You know what I mean? Where we're so close to Great Britain, right? I was going to say that was the words I was looking for. He's a national treasure, right? So you feel as if you've seen a lot of Michael Caine films. And when I seen the question, I was like, you know what? I haven't seen that many. And of course, I did Get Carter's been one of those ones that I've wanted to watch because apparently it's classed as one of the greatest British gangster movies of all time. And it was on last week. So I actually caught up on it. I watched it the other night. And look, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a bit dated. I could see why it's considered a great movie of Michael Caine's because he does a brilliant job in it. So I would recommend that. I do have that as number 2 on my list for Michael Caine.
That's a good one. Yeah, Michael Caine in The Prestige. Mr. Smelly Potato said, I love Michael Caine in The Prestige. Anything he was doing with Christopher Nolan, like he's essentially like, he's going to be in all of his movies no matter what. I would say Prestige is my favorite of that. And then I like him in the Batman movies and then followed by Interstellar. Interstellar, like he just, I know what they were trying to go for with him. He's so weak in that movie as far as like, he's a sick old man in it. And, I don't know. Maybe I just didn't like seeing him like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen too many of those movies. When I was looking at his filmography to try and jog my memory of movies that I've seen in it, and I did think I did see The Side of His Rules many years ago, but I noticed he was in an awful lot of Chris Nolan movies, maybe Prestige. I'm not sure if that was before Batman Begins or whatever. But look, I enjoy his performance as Alfred in the Batman movies. I think he's very good. I don't know if I prefer Michael Gough, but maybe that's just the way I was brought up.
Well, it's so funny you said that. I have a funny story. So when I was in high school, Michael Gough passed away, and it was only about me and like 2 other friends. We had this one computer class together. We were the only people in the whole entire school I knew, at least, who liked movies like that. And when Michael Gough passed away, nobody else gave a shit. But we were like, man, isn't it suck? Alfred passed away.
Yeah.
So I just think that the next generation just kind of Alfred was Michael Caine, and like they kind of forgot it because Michael Gough, we talked about in our Batman podcast, essentially in the sense that he's like, he's not that strong Alfred that he's kind of portrayed in the comics as. He's just like, he kind of is more like a butler and a fatherly figure, and that's really it.
Yeah, exactly. I think if I remember in the comics, if I remember from my Batman history, he was like a World War II vet, or was it Korea? And he was kind of like he was a medic, so he basically was the one that patched Bruce up whenever he got into a scuffle or a fight, or and got injured. So that's basically what Alfred was in the comics to Bruce, a mentor, a father figure, and also somebody who can patch him up when he had a rough night.
Yeah, and I think actually they kind of got to that right in the more recent The Batman with Alfred. Like I think they're trying to like slowly age him back to where he's a little bit more middle-aged and a little bit more closer to Batman.
Yeah, exactly. In the Batman, I think what they're trying to do is that they're making Batman younger, so they need Alfred to be a bit younger, and I think he's becoming more like an older brother. So I don't know if I like that.
Okay, I get that. Fair enough. A couple things just real quick before we go on. Kevin asked if you had your own channel, and actually, you don't, right?
No, I don't. Not at the moment. It could be something that I would like to look into down the line. But as John knows, I've only just got the laptop and I'm trying to sort out a few other things before maybe venture into doing that, Kevin. But thanks for asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually made a great improvement on our shows. David's got a much better setup, and him joining the live stream, it's all nice and clear and everything. I think it all works out better, and it's improved our show together. And David could only go up from here.
Yeah, apart from my flickering camera that I keep noticing, which is concerning me.
By the way, so the Belfast Red Devil, in response to that, said he should have his channel. Do you know this person?
No, I don't. So, but I assume if he's Belfast Red Devil, he's a Belfast Manchester United supporter.
And he also said, this was his question for both of us real quick. Guys, sorry for joining late. I have my son with me. He doesn't know who Michael Caine is. If you could describe Michael Caine, how would you do Dear Once him as a great actor or person? Well, if I was going to describe Michael Caine was one of the biggest, British actors from the 1960s and 70s who's maintained a career throughout. But I think he was at his peak as far as, prestigious filmmaking was at that time. And then, of course, he became most famous, which we haven't touched on yet, for Jaws 4: The Revenge, which David absolutely loves. And then he had a second wind as far as popularity for being a supporting role in the Christopher Nolan films from the 2000s and 2010s and even into the 2020s. But he's always been a phenomenal actor. I feel like he brings a certain class to the films he's in. But like we talked about with Goldmember, he's also not afraid to like make fun of himself and understand like how he was portrayed and believed to be in the 60s and 70s as like, a ladies' man. He was a charmer. And even in Jaws 4, I feel like they lean on that. Like he's just a very charming guy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's a fact for you. Now I'm not big into modern movies. Okay, my kind of passion for modern movies is burned out, but that's a different story. But there's only two actors they have been nominated in something like 5 decades in a row for a best actor or best supporting. I think it's either best actor or best supporting actor, and that is Michael Caine and Jack Nicholson. I think it was 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. They have all been nominated for Best Actor over those 5 decades. And they both won. Well, Nicholson's won 3 Oscars and Caine's won 2. So, yeah. And of course, I think the first movie that I ever seen Michael Caine, and I, growing up in the 80s with movies on the television, another one on my list is Escape to Victory. I think in America, John, it's known as Victory. And it's I haven't seen it in a while, but it's really cheesy. It's set in World War II. It's basically the POW set up a soccer team, a football team. Sylvester Stallone's in it. Pele is in it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, who has a lot of famous actors in it, but Michael Caine's in that as well. So that's one on my list. But I might have seen bits and pieces of that on television. But of course, Jaws: The Revenge is one of my favorite movies of all time, even though it's a stinker. And I absolutely love Michael Caine's performance in Jaws: The Revenge. He's part of the reason why, for me, it's watchable. I think you said, John, he brings a bit of class to the movie, and it's part of the reason why they paid him $1 million in 1986 to be in a Jaws movie, was because they knew the gravitas that the name Michael Caine would bring to Jaws 4. And he actually thought to himself, oh, well, go to the Bahamas here for a week. I'll be on holiday and I'll get paid $1 million. And I'll make a movie. So that's what he done. Well, Davey should know who Belfast Red Devil is. So I guess that's Georgie, is it?
Well, George is 39 Campbell, because I know him.
Yeah.
So, but I think we covered enough on Michael Caine. Now, do you have your Blu-rays out for that one question?
Which one's that, Day?
Let's see. What did I do? This is the one thing about doing it live, is I got a cycle like this. How would you rank the slasher movies in your Blu-ray collection?
Oh, I don't have them out. But one thing, can I just go back? There was somebody there that said about Mona Lisa. I watched Mona Lisa recently.
Oh, you did? You watched, because me and you had talked about this on our show, The Long Good Friday, and we both hadn't seen it.
Yes, and you know what? I was underwhelmed by it, but I thought it was a decent movie. And Michael Caine, again, is very good in that. Bob Hoskins is very good in it, and it's directed by Neil Jordan, who directed Interview with the Vampire. So it's worth a watch. It's okay, but Michael Caine's good in it.
Well, Michael Caine's always good. That's the thing about Michael Caine.
Yeah, exactly.
always a solid actor.
Yeah.
So
And again, he brings that gravitas to any role he brings. He's a great presence in any movie that he's in.
I agree. So do you want to grab some of your Blu-rays and show them off, and I'll start showing some of mine off?
Oh, I didn't know if it. Yes, I can go and grab a few if you need me to. Yes, no
If you
problem.
want to, because one thing about you is like we don't get to talk about on our show is that you are a physical media collector. Our show doesn't
Yeah.
really dive into the physical media side of those releases that we talk about.
Yeah. Well, if anybody ever watches the early episodes of our show, John, behind me is my man cave and some of my collections behind me, but I'm actually in the process of doing it up, so that's why I'm sitting in the living room. So but eventually I'm gonna try and move back into there so people might be able to see my collection, like yourself, John, behind you. But yes, I have no problem. I'll go and grab some of the slices, no worries.
Yeah, just you don't have to grab them all. I got all mine out here, and honestly, it's a lot, so I kind of separated them into collections. So while you go grab them, I'll just show off what
Yes,
I got.
yes, no problem. I'll only be a minute.
So kind of, I feel like always at the bottom for me. It's just just in franchise in general. I'm not the world's biggest Child's Play fan, so I kind of will always have the Child's Play collection right here. They're the Chucky collection, like towards the bottom. But I did upgrade the movies that I like on 4K. So for me, the worst of those would be Child's Play 3, followed by Child's Play, like the original Child's Play, the one that started them all. I still absolutely love the opening to this. It's the only time until like later, really later, we see Brad Dourif actually as Charles Lee Ray. And it kind of sucks because not for nothing, Brad Dourif's a good looking guy, and certain times, especially in the 80s when he grew his hair out. So, it sucks we got to see him just as a doll. And then I think the best of the original trilogy is Child's Play 2, even though that's like kind of filmed on a soundstage and all. And the 4K is great. And then Bride of Chucky, I think, is the best in the franchise. And this 4K is phenomenal. I watch this one every single like Halloween season. It's really got that spooky season kind of feel to it. So I always will include that as well. Who else is here? George Campbell. See, there's George. But it's that Michael one. Oh, I think I know who this is. So we'll leave that up until he gets here. And then, the worst of them, as far as my slasher collection, and we're going to rectify this year, guys, is the Nightmare on Elm Street Blu-ray collection. Just not a good one. Unfortunately, the quality isn't great. The 4K Blu-ray, though, is phenomenal. But we're supposedly getting them all this year. It's been talked about. We have no official artwork, no official press release, but it's supposedly coming. So we'll have to wait and see. So I'll have to put these comments up for David when he gets back. Let him know who you guys are. You guys are here for him. And I don't blame you. I still think right now, I went back and forth with the Scream franchise. Like, what's the best? What's the worst? And, one of them, and it's been rumored that we'll get to it in a second. I'm going to spoil it right here, but where is it? How do I have these ranked? So I think the worst in the franchise to me is still Scream 2. This 4K from Paramount's pretty good. You guys remember when Paramount was putting these 4K Blu-rays out, how they kind of like staggered the releases? And then second to last right now is the most recent Scream. The 4K is good, but it suffers from what a lot of modern movies suffer from. But I always like the Radio Silence guys that I like the look that they go for their movies, even though it's got that modern movie look, but I like the warm feeling of their movies. And then next up, what do we have? We'll go with Scream 5. I like this movie. I thought they had a lot of good things to say. And of course, it kind of felt like a continuation of what the Scream movies do, but talking more of like modern films and now basically legacy sequels and what do they call those? The re-sequels and all that stuff. Basically just starting the franchise over. That's why the movie's called Scream. I hate that, by the way. It still bothers the hell out of me that it's called Scream. And then next up, Scream 3. I like Scream 3 more than most people. I get that this is kind of the more like, definitely the least goriest because that was a thing at the time is they didn't want this movie to be as gory after, I believe it was the Columbine killing. So they really toned down the gore and it's really, really noticeable. But I like the characters in that movie. I like that that's the only one still in the franchise that has one killer. And I get that it does the bad thing that threequels do but they recontextualize it. The first one, but they make sure to bring that up in that movie. So I kind of give it a little bit of a pass. And that means my second one, and it absolutely has a horrible Blu-ray, is Scream 4, but I love Scream 4. And then obviously the best one of all of them is the original Scream, which also has a great 4K as well. David, I know you're not in here yet, but people know they know you. Got a couple more I want to just show off real quick. Shocker on 4K is a great one. And my all-time favorite slasher, David, is Candyman on 4K Blu-ray.
Do you know what, John? I actually was doing, as I said, I basically went through the questions about 10 o'clock tonight and was writing my lists out. And I came in and I heard you talking about Scream, and I literally forgot to put Scream in my list. Can you believe that?
You son of a bitch.
Now I'm looking at my list and going, where can I put it? So did you just go through your list or what did you do there?
I went through about half of mine. I just banged through like a couple of franchises and ranked them. But if you look at the comments here, you can see them on your screen from Belfast Red Devil. These people, they know you. Your brother, I think your brother's in here too.
Yes, so I got mixed up. Exactly. See what I said, George. The fact that he called me the fact that the Belfast Red Devil called me Davy. My brother doesn't usually call me Davy, so I assume Belfast Red Devil is my brother.
Okay.
And then yes, George is in there. So yeah, so George, I know because I knew George had a name. That's why it confused me. I was like, has he changed his name?
No. George is he's also told me some things about you. I forgot what he said earlier today. I think it was Diamonds Are Forever. One of them you apparently can sing the theme song very well. You used to sing it at work.
Did I? Oh God, I can't even remember. Oh yeah, I can't even remember. Yeah, we had a George and I worked together for many years, and one Christmas they had a Christmas dinner, and it was James Bond themed.
Oh
And,
really?
yeah. And we had to get up and sing a song, but it wasn't Diamonds Are Forever that we sang. It was me and another guy we worked with. We sang The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh, that was probably The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah, that's right. That was many moons ago.
So that's so funny.
Yeah. So here, my some of my slasher movies. So I didn't bring a lot of them. I brought 5 in. And look, to be honest with you, I would put Scream in my top 10, but for some reason I totally forgot about Scream, and I love Scream. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a few unfamiliar ones that people may not know of, which I would recommend they watch, because the good thing as well is that, as you know yourself, John, being a physical media collector, there's big boutique labels are kind of taken over now.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our favorite boutique labels is Arrow Video. So they have opened the door for a lot of like these slasher movies that may have been banned, especially in Britain and Ireland, over the years, and they've brought them back after all these years later. They're cleaning up the negative. They're giving them special features. They're interviewing the stars who maybe never made it, or they're interviewing the director and the writers who are only known for making these slocky kind of, horror movies in the 80s. So the number 10 on my list is a wee movie called, where is it now? The Mutilator.
Oh, I've actually heard of this movie, but I haven't even seen this.
Now, I would recommend that. I don't know why more people don't talk about this. This film is, to me, it's your typical kind of early 80s slasher movie, kind of like in a Friday the 13th type of vibe, but it all takes place in this beach house, and I think it's very good. So that's one that I would recommend. And then one, John, that we kind of touched on in our Rocky 2 episode, which I recently bought on Blu-ray and hadn't watched it I bought it a few months ago. And when we talked about Joe Spinell on our Rocky episode, I was like, I need to watch that because I haven't watched it in Blu-ray and I hadn't seen it in a way, which is a movie called Maniac.
Yeah,
starring Joe Spinell.
Great one. I have that one in here as well. I have the 4K from Blue Underground, actually, where's your 4K from? Is that Arrow over there?
That's a Blu-ray. That is 88 films, so I'm not sure it's on 4K yet over here.
Okay, yeah, I have it on 4K Blu-ray. Really nice 4K Blu-ray. Actually, they did the 4K Blu-ray for another. I don't know if you've ever seen this trilogy of movies, but I stand behind these wholeheartedly. The Maniac Cop movies.
I have the first one. Arrow done a Arrow in the very early days when they were just being established, when they were just starting to take off, they brought out Maniac Cop, and that was one of the first Arrow videos I'd ever bought. I'd never seen it before, and I was going to put it on my list, but I didn't. It is very good, but I heard the second one's better.
Second one is better, and the second and third one have, honestly, Maniac Cop 3 it's not a great movie. It's the worst of the trilogy, but it has probably the best looking horror 4K Blu-ray I've ever seen. Like, the 4K Blu-ray, it's unfair, honestly, that the 4K is that good, because the movie's not great, but I'm like, it's stunning.
Yeah, it's the same director directed Maniac Cop.
I don't know if they're the same director. You could be right. I don't know. I know that Matt, when those reviews on the channel were done by Matt, I didn't even do them. So I only watched those movies once on his recommendation. So just before we go further, we forgot about this. And and Frank is right. Frank from Frank's Medium Reviews wrote a movie I just watched for the first time that had Michael Caine was Dressed to Kill. Definitely didn't think that movie was going to end like that. And honestly, Dressed to Kill, I have the 4K over here, and it just came out in 4K from Arrow. Great movie directed by Brian De Palma. I don't know, we forgot to talk about that, but yeah, that's great. And Frank, guys know Frank. I'm on Frank's channel all the time. Frank's a great guy, and he's a bankroll member here, so just a great guy.
Yeah, look, I seen Frank's message there, and I was gonna bring it up and say, by the way, he's right. We didn't touch on that. It is on my list. Dressed to Kill. It's a very sleazy type of movie. It's almost like, to me, it's his version of Psycho, because he's such a Hitchcock. It was like, how can I make my own version of Psycho? And it's a lot sleazier than Psycho. And it also stars Keith Gordon as well, who was in Jaws 2 and Christine.
Yeah, I mean, Keith Gordon, I love Keith Gordon. He's always great. Yeah, and he's great in Christine. And also on Dressed to Kill. Without Dressed to Kill, we wouldn't have Brian De Palma's body double, because he wouldn't come up with the idea of the body double thing in that if he didn't use a body double in Dressed to Kill.
Yeah, well, that's one I haven't seen, is Body Double, and I know you've recommended it to me. I'm near certain Arrow have a release of that as well. But he, it's been a while since I've watched Dressed to Kill. I'm just trying to remember the techniques he used for that, as in body doubles, because I know that Hitchcock done that when he was making Psycho, to throw people off the scent for who the killer was. Yes, Michael, we've talked about Harry Brown. That was my number one for Michael Caine movies, out of the ones I've seen.
Yeah, out of the ones we said we didn't see a ton of them. De Palma stepped it up a notch with Body Double. Yeah, you have to see Body Double, because you're a huge fan of Hitchcock, and he basically rips off 3 Hitchcock movies in one to make Body Double, and then goes for the most insane ending you could possibly go for. And it's the most 80s thing. It's great. I love Body Double.
Yeah, that's definitely one I'll have to check out. And then here's another one of the top 10 slashers. Now, I'm not sure how many people have seen this. Well, you could say it's a Friday the 13th knockoff, but it came out the same year, which is strange. Or it might have come out the year after. I know that Tom Savini was working on this movie instead of Friday the 13th Part 2, because he couldn't understand how Jason Voorhees could be the killer in Friday the 13th Part 2, because he was like, he died as a young boy. But so he decided to make this, or do the effects in this movie instead. The Burning.
Yeah, you've told me about it, and this is another one I haven't seen, but you are a big fan of this.
Yeah, it's a very good slasher. I think this was the Weinstein brothers' first movie.
Oh, great. That's where it all began, huh?
That's where it started, on The Burning, and they never stopped since. So yeah, that I recommend that. That's another very good film, John.
Ah, okay, that's definitely a great one. I guess I'll throw another one in here. What do I got? I mean, this is a whole franchise stack. Actually, I'm sure this is on your list too, and we have probably the same set. But the Psycho 4Ks.
Yeah, well, when I was doing my list earlier, I was like, as you know, if anybody has watched the channel or our episode that's coming out next week, I'm a massive Psycho fan.
Mm-hmm.
Jaws is my favorite franchise of all time. A lot of people consider Jaws a horror. If I didn't, Psycho's my favorite horror franchise. So I did have all 3 in my top 10. However, I might have to knock one of them out for a Scream to go in there instead. So Psycho would be my number 1 of all time.
Psycho. Oh yeah, so you got to have that on your list. Yeah, I mean, I figured that, and I went back and forth, like, because I know, I mean, the Psycho 3 is a great '80s slasher. Where do I include it? Beautiful. And Frank, I'm sorry, buddy, I let you down by not seeing The Burning. Like Frank, seen every horror movie, and like probably you have. Like horror's one of my favorite genres, but that's definitely like I got some blank spots in horror because I've just like dabbled in so many other genres as well. I try and go everywhere, but yeah, The Burning is one that I know I'm fucking up on. Now that's my see now I have to watch that next month by force. Now, do you see that?
There you go. Well, John, I
You
know that
paid for that.
there was a stage that you said to me about doing that on the show last. I think it was October. I remember, and then we were like, well, look, I think we settled on two other horror movies then because we want to touch on those more popular ones. And you'd say because you wanted to watch it, I think it was coming to 4K or something. You said to me you wanted to watch it.
Yeah, I still haven't watched it. So
Still.
no one pushed me to watch it on last October. And yeah, I'll probably buy the 4K to do Frank's review for this month. That's
Yeah.
probably so my first time will be a good time because you have that Blu-ray, which is probably pretty nice still, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I've only watched the movie twice, but since I got it, I've had it a few years, and yeah, it's a good movie. I like it. That's what I like about the Arrow, as I say, movies. They bring these movies out that you've never really
Very
heard
true.
of, and some of them are half decent. They've been overshadowed by the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the Friday the 13th and the Halloweens, but they're still decent slasher movies.
Yeah, that's very true. And Stacy said that the slasher genre has kind of been down lately. I would say definitely for the most part, but the Ty West trilogy of movies, I don't know if you like those, like X Pearl, and then what was the third one that came out last year, Maxine, which I felt like was inspired a lot by De Palma, which is inspired by Hitchcock. So I really like that. But yeah, the slasher genre, I feel like that's just kind of how it goes. It'll never fully disappear, but like Thanksgiving from last year was really good. But every once in a while, a great slasher comes along.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the
Yeah.
80s anymore, right?
No. Listen, I think horror's one of them genres that if I hear it's good, I'll give it a chance. And there's been a handful over the last few years which I've enjoyed. It all depends. I like the first couple of Insidious movies. I thought the Conjuring universe is pretty good. I also enjoyed the film Megan, which is kind of like an updated version of the Chucky or Child's Play. So, and I know they're bringing a second one out of that, so I'd be interested in watching that as well.
Megan's great. Yeah, I'm excited for Megan too. That was a really good one I saw in theaters last year, or was that
Yeah,
2 years ago now? Jesus,
2 years ago. Yeah.
yeah, you got another one on your list?
Well, of course, my list here, I would have to say, look, I had to put a Friday the 13th on my list, John, and my favorite Friday the 13th is Friday the 13th Part 3. That's my favorite one. Yeah, and just the 3D one. It always gets maligned because it's in 3D. But when you think about Friday the 13th Part 3, that's when we see the he's not the quintessential Jason, but he's this hulking guy. He's scary looking. That's when he first gets the hockey mask. You actually see the hockey mask pulled off at one stage, and you can see he's deformed. I think that I might even be the first movie where he gets the machete as well.
It is
Yeah.
correct.
So there's an awful lot in that movie to really enjoy, and I really like the soundtrack to the third movie too. So that's why I had to put Friday the 13th Part 3 on my list.
Yeah, I got the whole set right here. This would have been my number one as far as like my box sets go. I also have the remake. I don't know if you ever saw the remake not remake, like reboot from 2009 on 4K right here.
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's actually good. That Arrow 4K, if you ever get it fixes a lot of the problems I had with the movie, which is that movie was very ugly because of the time. That era of movies, that was like in the beginning of digital age, and they wanted to put those fucking blue filters over everything. They did it for that movie. Luckily, they were able to fix that with that 4K.
Yeah, I think that 4K only came out in the US.
Really?
I think so. No, they Arrow Video release, and they have certain territories. Sometimes the UK will get it and the US won't, and vice versa, or they'll both get it. Like the Jason X and Jason Goes to Hell is both territories. So that's why I never bought that. But partly because I didn't have a 4K at the time either. So it was like, well, what's the point? Because the way 4Ks are region free.
Yeah, that's true. That's the best thing about 4K Blu-rays, that and HDR, is that they're region free. So if things are locked, at least now we can at least watch the 4Ks from wherever, because it sucks to have things get region released like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I still need the purchase or put my pre-order down for Jason Goes to Hell or Jason X because I haven't seen any of them. But obviously, like another one of my list, John, then would be. I mean, I have a couple of Psycho movies on there, and Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and Nightmare on Elm Street 1 would be on my list
Mhm.
as well. Yeah, the Nightmare on Elm Street is one of my favorite horrors of all time as well.
And you like all of them pretty much, right? Just even the bad ones, you still enjoy the entire franchise like I do?
Yeah, yeah, I love the for a long time I used to say like Nightmare on Elm Street was my favorite horror franchise, and then I was like, no, it's not Sego, and mainly because like Sego franchise, as in the original first four movies, I love all four of them movies, whereas like even though I enjoy the full Nightmare on Elm Street series, I do sit down and I watch the likes of Part Four and Part Six and even parts of Part Five and go, this movie's dog shit. So I never feel that way about the Sego movies. So even though I do enjoy all of them, I can recognize that anything after three is pretty, it's more miss than hit.
Yeah, it's just, it really, since you're a fan of the franchise, you enjoy even the shitty stuff just because, it's like, it's still good to me just to go there and like enjoy the character. Like, I love Freddy's Dead. I know it's a bad movie, but it's basically a spoof of the entire franchise. So I appreciate it for that.
Yeah, Freddy's Dead to me is that old word nostalgia. That is a time where I probably seen that before I seen some of the other ones. And you felt like you were doing something you shouldn't be doing. When you were young, you was like, I'm not allowed to watch this. This is 18. I shouldn't be watching it. And you watched it and you enjoyed it. And it was only as the years rolled on and you get older and you watch the originals and realize how scary actually the originals are, and how good they are. And then once you then go delve back into those ones that you watched when you were a kid, and you realize how much of a farce they are. So it's that kind of nostalgia feeling I have for the likes of Freddy's Dead.
Yeah, exactly. And I have those nostalgic feelings for a lot of those like bad horror movies. Like right here, Jason X is bad. I love Jason X. Unshamefully, I love Jason Goes to Hell and Jason Goes to Jason X and Jason Goes to Hell. Like they are bad movies, no doubt about it. But I have an absolute blast with them.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen them. And because I am a physical media collector, George, and because Arrow are going to be releasing them with really nice box sets. They get a booklet and stuff in them. I'm kind of tempted to give it a go, buy them and watch them. And that's the funny thing with me as well is like the Friday the 13th to me are like they're the same movie over and over and over and over again. It's just different players in the movie, different settings. And I am one of those guys that loves Jason Takes Manhattan. I don't know what it is about that film. I understand it's god awful, but some ways I look at it and go, well, I don't think it's any worse than part seven. I don't think it's any worse than, people hold part four in real high regard. I actually think part four is so overrated. It's so overrated. To me, it's not much better than any of the other ones. Or whereas like I'd rank part three higher than it, I'd rank part two higher than it. I really like part five, so it's a much of a muchness.
I actually find that the middle three movies are the best in the franchise, 4, 5, and 6. I love all that whole trilogy there. I mean, I know that 4 represents like the end of the original Jason, and 5 doesn't even have Jason technically. And then Jason Goes to Hell is like the perfect one for me.
Yeah, well, that's why I don't mind checking out Jason Goes to Hell and Jason. I've stayed away from it for years. I have the first 8, and I know that who was it done the first 8? Is that
Paramount.
Paramount? So they have a collection together. So I've watched them for years, and I was actually quite surprised when I first watched them because what I like about them is how they kind of continue and how Jason evolves through the series. He goes from a boy to like a teenager in the second one, and then he's a grown man in the third one, and then he evolves in, and then he involve him in the zombie Jason. And as you say, then he goes to hell. So I haven't seen that. So I need to give them a chance.
Yeah, well, that's where Jason belongs in hell. I think you'll like them though. Like they're fun. Obviously, you know what to expect going in. But
Yeah. I'm not going to take it too seriously.
no, you can't. Especially if you watch Jason X and Go to Hell. That's like jumping the shark territory. You got any more Blu-rays that you whipped out that you want to show
Well,
off?
the last one to grab this, and I think there's a lot of people here might argue that this is the best slasher of all time. I think it is on my list. I've got it at number 3 behind Psycho and A Nightmare on Elm Street, and no, undoubtedly it is a classic and influenced a whole generation and influenced a whole genre. So it is the original Halloween by John Carpenter.
Yep, that's what I got right here is my entire Halloween collection. You'll notice that Halloween Ends is not in here because I won't allow it to drag the whole collection down.
Well, it's that collection. Yeah, that collection there, John. What is that collection that you have?
Well, they're all over the place. So for the original Halloween, I actually have it has 2 different 4Ks. It has the Lionsgate 4K and then it has
Yep.
a Scream Factory 4K.
Yeah, the landscape. That's the Blu-ray I have.
Yeah, and then I have this Scream Factory. This has all of the movies in it before the newest trilogy. So this has the Rob Zombies in it too, which I don't like. I don't know how you feel about them.
I haven't watched them because, Halloween's one of these franchises I was kind of late to. It was kind of one of those things where Halloween is such a classic that it's always been in my collection from the DVD days. I actually still have my DVD because it has the TV version on there, which isn't on any of the Blu-rays. I think it isn't on the Scream, what do you call it, factory version. Yeah. So when Halloween came around here, HMV, our local store that sells like Blu-rays and DVDs, they would usually have a sale on horror movies. So I went through a phase every Halloween of picking up a cheap Halloween DVD. So it was like, well, I haven't seen the second one, so I got that for like £1. And then the following Halloween, it was like, I'll buy the third one. And then it was like, I'll buy the fourth one. So I do enjoy the Halloween movies. I understand that the later ones are very, very maligned, and they're okay. I mean, I don't take them as serious. Like the Friday the 13th, I don't take it too serious. The first one is a believable movie. It's a grounded and it's very believable. The rest start to get into the supernatural and the absurd. Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. There over here, I don't think there's been an official Blu-ray release of the sequels.
Gotcha. See, that's one thing that kind of does it. But you could import these ones that I have, these 4Ks, because these are all 4Ks.
Now that they're 4K, yeah. So what you were saying about the Rob Zombie ones, I have seen a couple of Rob Zombie movies, and to be honest with you, so I like the original Halloween movies. The Rob Zombie ones for me, John, I just don't like his style of filmmaking. I just know
that's the big thing with him. It's like you have to really like his stuff, like to really appreciate him.
Yeah, and I just know that I wouldn't enjoy them, so I don't give him a chance. Now the new trilogy, which came out, I did enjoy 2018. I didn't mind Kills. I thought it got bad-mouthed too harshly. And Ends is probably the worst one I've ever seen. It's the worst one out of them all. It's terrible. It's really bad.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more on that. I actually really like Kills. I think that one's just a fun time and like one you can watch every like Halloween season, like because it's just kind of Michael doing his thing. Yeah, they got the subplot there with the mob led by Anthony Michael Hall, where evil dies tonight. But if you kind of ignore that stuff, like it's a great movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I don't really want to kind of insult anybody in the horror community. I just think sometimes, and fans can do it in all kind of, but everybody, if you're a fan of Star Wars, you're a fan like me of Jaws, there's a Jaws community. If you're a James Bond fan, whatever it is, sometimes you can take things a bit too seriously. I'm guilty of doing it, but I just think that I don't believe Halloween to be Shakespeare. so I think that a lot of the criticism that Halloween Kills got was more to do with the fact of expectations of where fans expected the character to go, and maybe just didn't meet their expectations. I actually don't think it's as bad as people make out. It's not great, but it's not bad. I don't think it's bad by any means. Whereas I think Halloween Ends is bad.
Yeah, there's some people like, Halloween Ends is bad. I would have to say that like that's probably the lowest of the series, but like the other ones, like Resurrection's ridiculous. But
is that the one? Sorry, is that the one with Buster Rhymes? No,
sure it is. Trick or treat, Michael.
Yep. Trick or treat, motherfucker.
That's what it is, motherfucker. Then he roundhouses him, and that puts him down. That's what's more impressive than anything. Buster Rhymes put down Michael Myers.
That was the one that was kind of done in the.
It's
It
got
was like
cool ideas because of the
you know,
webcam stuff at the time.
maybe like the reality TV type of thing.
Yeah, it had some cool ideas. It's just like what that does worse is it just basically undoes everything in H2O, which is actually a decent one. So that's what makes that one so bad.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Laurie Strode has died and resurrected more times than Michael Myers, but
They're
my
in a
favorite.
competition.
There must be my favorite version of Laurie Strode is Halloween H2O.
She's great in that. That honestly, that's also like kind of around peak Jamie Lee Curtis actress. Like as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned, like she just puts up a great performance. Same direct writer as Scream, so it's that Kevin Williamson. So it's very much of the time, but I
Yes.
just think it works though.
Yeah, it's very much off the, like you say, Kevin Williamson riding the high of Scream, off the back of Scream. That's bringing Michael Myers back, and it really feels like a late 90s slasher horror movie.
Yeah, I agree. And then this question, do you consider Halloween 3 to be a cinematic masterpiece? I got the 4K right here. I don't know how you feel about Halloween 3.
Well, how do you feel, John?
Well, I agree with this statement right here because I love Halloween 3 unabashedly. I think that movie it's honestly my favorite in the entire Halloween franchise, even though everyone obviously will say Halloween, and I understand. I respect it. I understand why it's the better film, but I've always truly enjoyed going back to Halloween 3 more than any of them.
Mm-hmm. Personally, I don't consider it to be a cinematic masterpiece. No,
No,
but
cinematic masterpiece is a stretch, but
it's
yeah, a real
but
stretch.
yeah, but I do like it. I like it. I like it a lot. I do. I like it very much. I would say it's definitely in the top 4 or 5 Halloween movies of all time, depending where you want to put that. Like, are we talking like Halloween 1, Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Halloween 4, Halloween 2018? Would we say that they're the top 5 Halloween movies? So, which way do you want to rank them? It's up to you.
That's true. That's a good point. It's just Halloween franchise very different from. I feel like the Friday the 13th might not have any of those really big highs. Like I don't think there's an absolute like people would say the first one, but I think the first one it's known they wanted to make a Halloween ripoff. But
Hmm.
like I feel like the first one has never been one of my favorites. People would say that's like a
Hmm.
classic in the horror franchise. I think it's just the one that started a great franchise. I would say that there's not as many peaks and valleys in the Halloween in the Friday the 13th franchise, whereas I feel like the Halloween franchise is filled with a ton of highs but some really low lows.
Yeah, that's the thing that to me, as I haven't seen the first 8 Friday the 13th, they're consistent at a certain level, consistently in the middle kind of thing. And some of them maybe dip below that. There's very few of them to me dip that higher than that. But Halloween started with like one of the greatest horror movies of all time and just kept going down, 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 down.
Yeah, I agree. It just never really could hit that high. I love 3, but yeah, I agree. So, Deranged Psychopath asked us, which director do you prefer, Woody Allen or Ridley Scott?
I would have to say undoubtedly Ridley Scott.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I do not like Woody Allen. I've seen a few Woody Allen films. I've enjoyed them, but Woody Allen, the person, really turns me off of his movies because he's also usually the star of his movies.
Yeah, I feel as if Woody Allen is an acquired taste, whereas Ridley Scott has made movies that have appealed to the masses. Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator. I mean, outstanding movies. Some of the best movies ever made.
Oh, we didn't even mention the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre to me is I I don't particularly like it.
Yeah, that's probably that's why I didn't really bring it up. I'm also not the biggest Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan, the original, and it's funny because I feel very similar to you about Rob Zombie, and Rob Zombie clearly was inspired by those southern type slashers, backwoods redneck slashers of the
Mhm,
like 70s and 80s that Toby Hooper did with the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I personally love Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which is the most 80s of them all.
mhm. One thing I find about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that maybe this is what it is with me. I think that I admire what he done with it. I admire what Toby Hooper done to make the movie. How low budget it was, how grounded it was. It was almost like a documentary style type of movie. I don't think there's any music in it. I think some of the deaths are horrific in it. And you come away feeling ill after watching that movie. We come away feeling like you need to
Brutal.
have a bath or a shower. Maybe that's why I don't like it, which is strange coming from a horror fan. It's not like I come away freaked out or turned bad. I just don't want to revisit it again very soon after watching it. And I think I've seen it 2 or 3 times in my whole life. I have a DVD steel book of it, which I bought many years ago. And I think it was, who was it, John? They brought out The Hitcher.
Oh, Second Sight.
Yes, I think they were bringing out a lovely, beautiful box set of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I didn't even buy it because I watched it recently on my DVD and went, that's not something I'm going to revisit again very soon.
Yeah, I've it's not a franchise. I'm the first one. It's not one I always would run back to, but a lot like Jaws, it's a movie that I've actually seen a ton of times. I've probably watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre like 15 to 20 times. And
Really?
yeah, well, you know what it is? Matt's my buddy, and Matt happens to be just like you. He's a huge Jaws fan, and also he's a huge Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan. So I'll always try. Like when we started this channel, we went back and watched them all. So I'll always try the movie again. Still don't love it, but I will always revisit it. Like I can probably I can watch that movie in my head. I've seen it so many times, and I do not enjoy that movie at all.
Yeah, and it's funny you should say that. Being a horror fan, I find a comfort in going back to my favorites. I find a comfort of going back and watching as we done Sego 2, Sego 3, even Sego 1, even Nightmare on Elm Street movies, so the Friday the 13th. I find a comfort in going back and rewatching them again. I would watch them once every year, once every couple of years. But that is not a movie that when I finish it, I think, I wouldn't mind watching that again. I just don't.
No, I get that. I completely agree. Just want to say one thing real quick. I want to thank Mr. Smelly Potato who gifted 5 Let's Talk Entertainment Media memberships. Thank you, buddy. I really appreciate you doing that. That's our channel bankroll member, so he's always supporting the channel.
Nice one.
Let me find a question. I actually he has a question for us. I want to make sure we answer that too. Just want to make sure I find it. Don't know where it is in here because this is how I do things. As you can see, this is one thing that David does that I don't do. David's very, very organized, and actually he plans our show a year in ahead.
Yeah, well, I wrote everything down here and realized I didn't do the A24 movie one because I don't know if I've seen any of them.
I think you have. If I read off the movies to you, you just might not realize it. It's like a Touchstone or something like that. It's one of those oh, they did this movie.
Yeah, I meant to look them up and I totally forgot. I wrote the question down and didn't do it.
Yeah. A24 is actually one of the better. I think you would love their movies. They're they're an art house studio, but a more mainstream one.
Yeah, you said to me when I said to you, but what's that A24? And I was going to look them up and go through it, and I totally forgot. Just you saying about me being organized, but you had mentioned Hereditary, and that is a movie that I've seen a lot of people recommend, and I've in the back of my mind about I should watch that.
I would say in the last 10 years, that's close to, if not my number one movie that's come out in the last 10 years. That's a horrific horror movie and has one of the most shocking movies. If you can go into that blind, it's one of the most shocking, has one of the most shocking scenes I ever seen in film.
Right, okay. But I am blind to get into it, to be honest. I know nothing about it, but I've heard a lot of people say good things about it, John.
Yeah, don't even watch the trailer. Even though the trailer doesn't give anything away, it's just it plays with your expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this one's from Mr. Smelly Potato for John David. What is your favorite childhood memory?
Do you want to go first, John?
This is tough because I've been thinking about this. What is my favorite childhood memory? To just pinpoint one, that's rough because I don't know if I can really lock down which one was I can't rank a childhood memory. I have some great memories. A lot of them actually do involve Matt, which is funny because he was the only person that had similar things that I enjoyed. Have some great memories of going to midnight releases for video games when that was a thing, for Halo 2 and Halo 3. I don't know if you guys did that over there in Ireland.
No, we did. Well, I didn't do that. But of course, there's 10 years between me and you age way, so there is that difference. But look, Mr. Smelly Potato, I appreciate the question, and when I read this question last week, I was thinking about it, and I was like John, I can't pinpoint one thing because, as I say, I have lots of favorite childhood memories growing up, and just to say, that's my favorite. I couldn't do that, but I suppose it all depends because being movie fans, you do have those favorite childhood memories of certain movies that influenced your life and where you are today. And I can pick a load of them. But I think as you get older, you realize your more favorite childhood memories are spending time with your family. You know what I mean? Going on family holidays or Christmases, birthday parties, things like that. So I have a lot of them when I was younger. And like yourself, my brother's on here, the younger brother, we were very close growing up, and we always used to talk about with our cousins, like yourself, John, and have some fond memories about us getting up to no good when we were young. So I'm sorry, Mr. Smelly Potato, I can't pick out one favorite, but there's been plenty. There's been many, but I do think the most important thing is the memories you have with your family.
Yeah, I agree. The ones I had in my family are definitely the best. But since this is a movie show, I can tell you a funny story about like I used to love going to the movies when I was a kid, and I don't know. I guess this was like the summer before I finally got my first like summer job, and then I've been working pretty much ever since. But the movie theater by me, it's a small theater. It's actually closed down now, but at the time they were remodeling their seats, and you can go there and see a movie for $4, but they had no seats. They would give you beach chairs, not even folding chairs, like beach chairs that are like low to the ground. So you'd be looking up at the screen. And like, but like that was the deal. Like they like as the theaters were like, putting new seats in, they ripped them up, but they would still show movies for $4 if you would. And I remember that summer going there all the time with my friends, just $4 to go see a movie. Why not?
Brilliant. Well, keep it up movie ways. Like, I can remember the first time I watched Jaws when I was like 6, but I always remember then becoming obsessed with the Jaws movies. And the first time I watched Jaws: The Revenge, and one of my favorite memories was I must have been bugging my dad to rent it because I didn't see it in the cinema. I was probably too young to go and watch it, or I wasn't aware it was in the cinema because this must have been around 87, 88. So I was only 6 or 7 years of age. But I remember being in the street and playing with my friends and coming past my house and hearing my dad shouting my name and me looking up, and he was standing in the window. The window, he opened the window and he pushed out the window, which was back then when we rented VHSs. It was a place in the town I'm from called the Busy Bee, and when you rented VHSs from there, it came in a yellow case. So he put it out the window, and there was the yellow case, and down the side I could see it said Jaws: The Revenge. And I remember going nuts. I was so happy that he had rented Jaws: The Revenge for me the first time I was ever going to watch it. And I remember saying, "Look, can my friends come in and watch it?" And he was like, "Yeah, but we're going to charge them 50p each." I'm gonna watch it. He was joking. He was joking, of course. So I think it was about 3 or 4 of my friends wanted to come in and watch it with me, and I remember like my parents saying, well, they'll have to go home and ask their parents they're allowed to come in and watch it. I think the movie was a 15 at the time.
Mm.
And we were like 6, 7 years of age, you know what I mean? And all my friends were allowed to come in and watch it, a bar one of my friends, and I can still picture him standing at the front door, distraught, going, nah, my mum says I'm not allowed. And I was like, oh, sorry about that, mate. See you later, and closed the door.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, and there was like 3 or 4 of us in the front room watching Jaws: The Revenge together. So you ask about why certain movies, nostalgia factor, why movies mean so much to you as you get older, even if they're bad movies and star Michael Caine.
Yeah.
Those are the memories that
Yeah,
stick with you.
see, the show goes full circle. That's why Michael Caine's on the poster from there ordering. Well, that's not him ordering 2 Bahama Mamas though.
No, it's not. Two Bahama Mamas, please.
But that's a great question. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Let's go back through and find some more. Can I do a cigarette brand tier list? Well, I don't smoke. Have you ever smoked, David?
No. I you didn't send me this question.
Yeah, I know. This one was I just had to put it on here because I was just like, it's from Johnny Balls. I just he's asked me a couple cigarette question lists. Like he asked me who my favorite cigarette smoker was a few weeks ago, like in a film, and I said Robert De Niro in Goodfellas. I still think's the best.
Yes, that's a great scene. But here, Roy Scheider with that cigarette hanging out of his mouth, bigger boat.
Okay. Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's classic. I mean, back then everyone was smoking. And they answered the question about A24. A24, what's the craziest one I've seen? I would still say Hereditary is the craziest. We'll do that in a second. Here's one. We always have fun with these. You want to do them?
I've got my list written down here. Yeah.
All right, so 021OM6, he'll send these in every once in a while. And right at the top, we got Benicio del Toro versus Antonio Banderas.
Well, I'm going to go for Benicio del Toro.
I also will go for Benicio del Toro, but I do love Antonio Banderas. I
Yeah.
loved him in a ton of movies. You know, he does Robert Rodriguez movies, but he's also great. Like Philadelphia, I thought he was
Hmm.
amazing in that. He did a movie. I can't remember the name of the movie he did a few years ago, but he played. I'm really upset at drawing a blank. It was a Spanish language film, but he played a guy who's like he had a really bad disease and he was like kind of coping with his life, and he like gets addicted to. He doesn't like get it. He gets addicted to heroin late in his life. It was great. He's great in that. But Del Toro's Del Toro, right?
Yeah, no, he's brilliant. I mean, I loved him in Sin City.
Yeah, he's great in Sin City.
Yeah, he's really good. Really
If it,
sinister.
and then of course, since I love him in Sicario, he's great. I saw him in a movie, The Fan from 1996, and he doesn't even like he plays like a stereotypical like Spanish baseball player. I was like, wow, that was really beneath him, but this is I guess what he could get in '96.
Yeah, yeah, got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Tommy Lee Jones versus Clint Eastwood. This is tough.
Really?
Well, I love Clint Eastwood, and I'm going to pick Clint Eastwood, but that I'm sorry, but that's Sam Gerard. I
To
love The
me,
Fugitive.
yeah, I know, but this, I just thought this was so easy. This is
I
like
mean,
Clint Eastwood is an absolute Hollywood legend. Now, I'm not saying Tommy Lee Jones isn't a legend in his own right. Tommy Lee Jones has done some great movies, but we're talking about Clint Eastwood here. We're talking about a guy who, the man with no name, Dirty Harry, and The Lane of Fire, Gran Torino, Unforgiven. You know what I mean? And not only that,
he's
what
a
he's
direct.
done as a director
Yeah, no,
is
this is
like
basically
there
like
was there
a
was a
12.
stage he sorry, John, there was a stage he had won more director Oscars than Spielberg.
That's crazy, actually.
Yeah.
Well, Scorsese's only got one of those, which also blows my mind.
It's not even fair. I mean, it's not even right.
No,
He
they
went
but
up, he went up for The Departed when he should have won it for like Goodfellas and maybe even Raising Bull, and it's
yeah,
ridiculous.
he lost thing for Goodfellas. No offense to Dances with Wolves and Kevin Costner, but like it's crazy to me that like Kevin Costner won an Academy Award for Best Director before Martin Scorsese did.
I don't know. Listen, it's mental. Listen. We could do a whole show just about these bad Oscars year in year out from the dawn of time.
Yeah, you definitely could. Next up, Forrest Whitaker versus Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah. Now this was tough because I think both of these are absolutely brilliant, but I went with Forrest Whitaker.
Really, I actually went with Cuban.
Yeah.
Cuba.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is very close. I do think Cuba Gooding Jr. is the better actor, but I just really like Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker has the longer career. Like, obviously he's an Academy Award winning actor too, and he's still acting today. He was acting all the way back in the '80s. Whereas Cuban, I keep calling him Cuban. I don't know why, but Cuban, he what's it called? Between Boys in the
Boys in the
Hood,
Hood.
and then Jerry Maguire a couple years later, which won him an Academy Award. Those two performances I just think are so phenomenal that it edges out Forrest Whitaker's entire body of work.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, that's understandable. That was a toss of the coin there. I think I just picked Forrest Whitaker because I just slightly like him better.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Fair enough. Next up, Dustin Hoffman versus Robert Downey Jr.
Again, this is another easy one for me. Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman. I'm going actually RDJ on this. I'm not. I don't know if I've ever
Really?
told you. I'm not the biggest Dustin Hoffman guy.
You probably haven't told me that, but like I just think that Dustin Hoffman has been one of the greatest actors of all time.
He's in a lot of great movies, and I love him. I love usually the movies around him, but I've never actually gone, wow, that Dustin Hoffman performance always draws me back to the film. Even in movies like Marathon Man or The Graduate, where he's phenomenal in it. Just I don't know. I don't ever really something about him always bugs me.
Yeah, Rain Man.
Rain Man is great, but I still argue that the better performance is Tom Cruise in that movie.
Tom Cruise. Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
no,
who's got the arc? Like he's got the arc.
yeah, well, that's true. No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, but I don't know. I just think that the Hoffman is, as I say, I like Robert Downey Jr., but I just think when you look at Hoffman's body of work, I think it blows his out of the water. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm in the minority in that. Robert Downey Jr., like his career's got a bunch of highs and lows. Obviously, now he's an Academy Award winning actor too. So,
Yeah, well, what did he win for again?
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he's great in that as Levi Strauss.
Okay. I haven't seen that yet.
Here's a good one: Woody Harrelson versus Edward Norton.
Yeah. Now this is tough because I feel as if Woody Harrelson or Wooden Harrelson Is or Woody Harrelson is a very very popular guy, very popular actor, and he's done some great movies. But I feel as if Edward Norton is the superior actor.
I feel exactly the same way. I would pick Woody Harrelson just because I've enjoyed more of his movies overall. Because Edward Norton kind of like, because he's like his attitude, like a lot of people don't really love to work with him. But so he's kind of like you don't really see him pop up that much anymore, even though he did just have an Academy Award nomination again for A Complete Unknown. But I feel like he was big in like the late '90s and like early 2000s, whereas Woody Harrelson's been consistent since like the '80s.
Yeah, well, I did pick Edward Norton.
You did
But
pick Norton.
I did pick Norton because I think I'd mentioned on I think it was our stakeout episode that he reminds me a lot of Richard Dreyfuss, where he hasn't fulfilled his potential as an actor, and I feel as if for me he was one of the best young actors that I've ever seen. Movies like Primal Fear and American History X, and it's just unfortunate that he didn't go on to do more.
Yeah,
With his career, maybe win Oscars and things like that, John. That's why I love them two movies. I can't sit here and say right now there's two Woody Harrelson movies that I can go, I absolutely love them and I will watch them for Woody Harrelson. Whereas I can sit here right now and say I love them two movies and I will watch them for Edward Norton. Absolutely brilliant. Whereas Woody Harrelson is consistently good. Like, okay, yeah, he was brilliant in what is that, War of the Planet of the Apes, and he was good in Kingpin. You seen him doing comedy, and I think he was wasn't he in No Country for Old Men as well? He was good in that.
Yeah. I mean, I love him in that. He's great in No Country for Old Men. But personally, I don't know if you ever seen the movie, and we'll get to him in a minute, actually. But him and Wesley Snipes in White Men Can't Jump is a favorite of mine from the early 1990s. They're so good together.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, that's a big one. I would always turn to Woody Harrelson. And the People versus Larry Flint, which is probably like one of his. And what's that movie he did for Oliver Stone? I'm drawing a blank on the name right now.
Natural Born Killers.
Natural Born Killers. Yeah, I think he's great in that as well as far as acting. And then he could do comedy. Like he's very good for. I don't know how much TV you watch, but True Detective season 1, phenomenal.
Yes, I haven't watched that, but I hear it's very good as well. Yeah.
I will go back. It's only 8 episodes, I believe. I'll go back and just rewatch that season of television because, if you watch it, it runs along like just a mini series and ignore everything that happens after because it's not even connected. It's beautiful. Some of the best stuff you'll ever see.
Yeah. Well, as I say, maybe as I contradict myself like I like to do, maybe his body of work blows Edward Norton out of the water, but
I see what you're saying. Edward Norton is like, I get what you're saying. It's very similar to what I've just kind of said against Forrest Whitaker and Cuba Gooding Jr. Is like I feel like Woody Harrelson's been consistent, whereas Edward Norton has those highs.
Yeah, like take for example, American History X. To me, like how Edward Norton basically carries that whole movie. I've never seen Woody Harrelson do that in a movie.
I don't think he's as good of an actor as Edward Norton. I mean, if I'm picking as far as acting chops go, straightforward, I think Edward Norton, definitely you're right, is the better actor. I think he's a more committed actor too.
Yeah. Oh, here, and another one too, funny enough, which is gonna maybe it might come up later if we get to that question, is Birdman. He's absolutely brilliant in Birdman.
I love Birdman. Phenomenal film. People have been like, I've heard people knocking it like backhandedly lately. I'm like, what happened? I thought we all loved Birdman.
I was so surprised when I watched Birdman because like I think I've told you before, like I work with people who, I don't know, we always cloused over movies because I was very opinionated on it. And I remember somebody saying to me, one of the guys saying to me, don't you watch that? And I went, why? And he was like, because I know you're just not gonna like it. Don't you watch that? I was like, okay. So I eventually got around to watching it, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I from day one, and like I knew I was gonna kind of like it going in just on like actors alone, but I'm like the movie still got to sell me, and it completely sold me. Obviously, us being big Batman '89 fans, they were clearly playing with the Batman character in there, and an actor like that, and I was just like, and then I love Emma Stone, I just always have.
Yeah, well, Michael Keaton, I think you've mentioned it as well. Robbed of a Best Actor Oscar that year.
And, hurt me to see him put the speech back in his coat. I'm like, it killed me to a guy like not a bad actor, but Not Michael Keaton.
I know, and I think he'd won like the Golden Globe and all for it, and everybody was talking about it. Keaton's gonna get. He won it in the Golden Globes. He's gonna win it. This is like the forerunner for the Oscars. He's gonna get it for the Oscars, and he didn't get it. And yeah, and Michael Keaton is phenomenal in that movie too. I think that both of them are absolutely brilliant in that film.
Yeah, I agree. Like they absolutely are. And then next up, because we just did Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes and Jean-Claude Van Damme. I don't think we've ever talked about Jean-Claude Van Damme or Wesley Snipes before.
No, and I think this one for me, I picked Wesley Snipes only because like Jean-Claude Van Damme is like to me. I've never seen Bloodsport or anything or Kickboxer, but he's like a second-rate action hero actor. That's why I picked Wesley Snipes. I think Wesley Snipes is the better actor.
I think first of all, I just love Wesley Snipes. He's always been kind of one of those underrated actors for me, who I don't think always gets his due. He's just always good. And just to circle back again to the fan with him and De Niro, they're such good actors. They carry that movie's terrible plot to the next level. So
yeah.
But Jean-Claude Van Damme, I've actually been getting a little bit more into him. I used to feel the same way as you, where he's just a secondhand. I always put Arnold and Stallone at the top of the 80s actor pile, and then at number 2, right behind. And number 2, I always put right behind Jean-Claude Van Damme, and then what's his name?
Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal, who I absolutely despise. Jean-Claude Van Damme, though, I watched a couple of his movies more recently, and I actually pre-ordered Time Cop to watch that one.
Oh, Time Cop, yeah.
He's actually really good. Like he's a terrible actor, but his movies are at least entertaining, and he gets the martial arts part down very well.
What was the one he done? He didn't do one with Dolph Lundgren, Universal Soldier or something?
I like Universal Soldier a lot too. Like his movies, my favorite of his movies is Sudden Death, which is just Die Hard at a hockey game. But like, if you just like watch his movies just for the pure entertainment factor, like they're good. They're really good. But no, Wesley Snipes is by far the way better actor. I love Wesley Snipes. He's Blade.
Yeah, well, that's why I picked Wesley Snipes myself, John, because he's like to me a proper actor. And Michael's watching here, and I remember many years ago when we still lived at home together. I think he was in university at the time, so he would come home.
He carried Street Fighter.
All right, no, he was in Street Fighter. I remember going to watch that at the cinema. But we used to on a Sunday evening they had like a channel over here in Britain, Channel 5, which we get, right? And it's basically they had like a Jean-Claude Van Damme season, so they would show a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie every Sunday evening, and me and him would sit down and watch it, and we would be pissing ourselves and laughing throughout the whole movie. And then they had like a Steven Seagal season, and it would do the same with him. So I remember having, as you say, his movies are entertaining.
Yeah, Steven Seagal, I don't like the guy, so I never could really get into his movies except for Under Siege. But that's also again because of Tommy Lee Jones.
yeah, true. Yeah.
Next up, we got a couple action stars, Liam Neeson and Jason Statham. Although Liam Neeson wasn't an action star, I mean the guy starred in Schindler's List.
Yeah, well, of course, I'm gonna pick the hometown boy here.
You got to pick Liam, right? I actually was gonna pick Liam Neeson too, but I just want to say I love Jason Statham and all his action movies. The guy's always like, even from like Snatch, all that stuff. He's an underrated actor. Liam Neeson is just a better actor, and then like he can do dramas and stuff. Jason Statham, I don't know.
Yeah, well, to me, Jason Statham falls into that bracket of what we talk about in the 80s and your level of like action heroes, right? Like to me, he's that level down from say. Like if you want to talk about, he's on the list here, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. He's like the modern day Schwarzenegger, isn't he? Supposedly. So
don't insult Arnold like that.
What's that?
Don't you dare insult Arnold like that.
Well, I wouldn't put him in the same bracket. There's nobody like Arnold. The only person coming closest is Stallone, right? But yeah. I'm talking like modern day. To me, Jason Statham is just, I don't think he's a great actor. I think that he's in those Meg movies. He does like those crappy kind of action movies. Liam Neeson to me is a proper actor. This guy was on stage for years. He learned his craft. He was at the Royal Academy of Arts in England. He's worked with some of the best actors around. And he's Irish, and he's from a wee town down the road called Ballymena. So he's one of us.
You got to accept him just for that. Even all the bad action movies he's done over the last like 15 years, you still accept him.
Well, you know, I haven't seen a lot of them. I did I did see which one was it? What was the one he does where he's on the phone and he says, "I'll find you, I'll hunt
Taken.
you down." Taken, yes, I've seen Taken and Taken too. But what was I going to say about him there? He was also in the Deadpool.
Yes, he was in the Deadpool.
The
he,
Deadpool.
have you ever seen Dark Man? Great in that.
No, I haven't seen that. But one of my favorite films that he's in is Michael Collins, where
Oh,
he
Michael Collins. Yep, I knew you were gonna say that one actually.
yeah, of course, yeah. That's
Uh,
why I like him as well. He's in Michael Collins, which was a great movie made by Neil Jordan about Ireland as well. So, um, yeah, I think Liam Neeson's good. Of course, yes, he played Oscar Schindler as well.
yeah, I mean that's probably. I mean, I don't even know. I think Taken. If you asked anyone now what his most famous role is, I don't know how many people run back to Schindler's List, or even like younger generations even know about Schindler's List. Like they'll know Jurassic Park from '93, but might not realize Schindler's List even exists.
See, the thing with Schindler's List is, John, in my opinion, it's one of the greatest films ever made. It's probably one of the greatest films that Spielberg's made, but it's such a hard watch. It's not one you run back to.
No, it's depressing as hell. I mean, the subject matter alone, it's you're not walking out of the theater that day. You're like, okay, I'm gonna do a Spielberg double feature. I'm gonna watch Schindler's List, and then I'll watch Jurassic Park to calm things down after that.
I know if you can, you need something to pick you up after that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What about Bruce Lee versus Jackie Chan?
Well, I'm not too familiar with any of these actors' movies. I'm not really into kung fu movies or those type of things, but it has to be Bruce Lee. The man's a legend.
Yeah, I'm honestly not the world's biggest martial arts film fan either, but over here in the States, Jackie Chan got really big with the Rush Hour movies, and I'm a really big Rush Hour films fan. And he also did the Shanghai movies. Jackie Chan was just one of those guys. Bruce Lee, though, I love like some of his movies that he did like in the early 1970s. I watched some of those martial arts films. And then, obviously like Enter the Dragon. He's phenomenal. Like it's sad he passed away so young because I think he would have transitioned actually into being a great American actor, like as far as
Mm.
Hollywood actors, but he died so young.
Yeah, exactly. And look, nobody knows. It's one of those things. I always feel as if when an actor who's on the up dies young, this myth is always built up around him. Nobody knows
Yeah, you
how
don't
their
know.
career would have panned out. It's like, it's like his son as well. I feel as if The Crow is kind of elevated because of what happened to his son. It's the same with Heath Ledger and his mythos as well. Who knows if he would have done anything better than what he done on The Dark Knight? We don't know. Um, and James Dean, he's another one as well. Died
Kurt
young.
Cobain, like honestly,
Nobody, nobody knows.
when you die young, I mean, that's a great point. It's like almost like you're a bigger legend if you die young, but then if you would have because honestly, if you'd lived it's a quote right out of The Dark Knight. You could you either die a hero, or you live to see yourself become a villain. How many people have we seen like basically just live too long and like you're like, oh wow, that guy's really just an asshole, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true as well.
We would have dropped dead at 40. We would have loved them.
Yeah, or they go out and they start doing a strain of like crappy movies and then end up doing TV movies, and people say 15 years down the line, whatever happened to him? It's like the movie Spinal Tap, when they hear one of their songs on the radio, and at the end you hear the DJ saying, and they are now on the where are they now list. and they're literally doing a tour at that particular time, and they kind of there's just silence in the room, and they just all look at each other. They're literally doing a tour, and the DJ is going, and they're currently on the where are they now list. But this is the thing, John. This is the thing about as an artist when you die young, right? A Kurt Cobain or a Heath Ledger, right? Even a Marilyn Monroe or a James Dean, you're immediately immortalized. If you die at the top of your tree young, people will always remember you as that young artist, Jimi Hendrix. That's the way you're going to be remembered for the rest of your life, right? Nobody is ever going to see you grow old. Like Gene Hackman, rest in peace. People will look at pictures of him as an old man and say, "Oh, Gene Hackman." You know what I mean? There's that progression of growing old and people in different parts of your career. But when you kind of die young, you're immortalized as that young person, and that kind of becomes iconic.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's exactly what it is. there's just so many people who like exactly we remember all these guys in like the 27 cut these guys and girls, and then you look back at guys who've like lived so long. It's like, oh yeah, whatever happened to him? And then when they're dead, it's like, oh yeah, remember him? He did that years ago, and that's kind of sad. Like if he would have died at like 27, we'd be like you said, making a statue of them. It's crazy how the world works.
Yeah, and look, nobody wants to see somebody like Jack Nicholson die young because we wouldn't have got all the great movies he done as an older man. But it is kind of sad to see your heroes really age. And as I say, it's you can take one image of Marilyn Monroe a couple of years before she died, and that image will be iconic. There is no Marilyn Monroe when she's 45. There's no Marilyn Monroe at 60. There's no Marilyn Monroe at 70. Do you know what I mean? It's just Marilyn Monroe in those iconic images when she was in her prime. And that's what happens when an older artist dies. It's diluted because they've been around for a long time.
I agree.
Like Marlon Brando. They'll laugh and they'll joke about fat Marlon Brando.
I know, it's sad. I've made the jokes, but it's because especially like when you see like the clips of like on that Val documentary of him being like just fat and lazy on the set of I don't remember what the movie was called, but like telling them to push him on the thing, and it's like, oh come on, I don't want to see Marlon Brando like that. I love Marlon Brando.
Exactly. Whereas if he had have died, say after The Godfather, the enduring image of Marlon Brando would be of him winning an Oscar for The Godfather, but because he became fat and lazy after that and difficult to work with, that's what he's remembered as.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it's like this guy was in A Streetcar Named Desire, right? Like, it's still let's not forget that.
On the waterfront.
Or on the waterfront, yeah. Like he's in The Godfather, like, but yeah, then we always remember him or hearing the stories about him being in Rounders, or I think it was of him sitting there like with his pants off, not even bothering to put pants on.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I want to live old enough to where it's like I'm that older, people just don't care anymore. They're like, yeah, whatever, let him do what he wants.
As Rocky says in Rocky Balboa to Mason Dixon when he says, "You're one crazy old man," he says to him, "You'll get there."
Yeah, it's true. We all get there.
We will. We'll all get there, hopefully.
All right, Mark Wahlberg versus Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Well, I went for Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, I picked Mark Wahlberg as far as because we're gonna go actors here. If it was just straightforward, like entire bodies of work, like Mark Wahlberg was a rapper before he was a actor. The Rock was The Rock. I'm a big wrestling fan, and I still love seeing The Rock do wrestling things, but I don't get that same feeling when he does movie things.
I don't even think I've seen Dwayne Johnson in a movie.
You've never seen any of the Fast and Furious movies that he's in?
No.
No,
never.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm sure he's an absolutely lovely person, but if I seen he was in a movie, I wouldn't watch it.
No, he's a very he's good in certain things. I'll admit, like there's times I'm like, okay, that's not, but the best I say is it's like, oh, he surprised me because he wasn't bad. Like, but
yeah.
But Mark Wahlberg, people would argue, is probably not the world's greatest actor either, but he does have some great iconic roles like Boogie Nights.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I'm not saying that Mark Wahlberg is the greatest actor of all time. I really enjoyed him in The Departed. I thought he'd done a great job in The Departed. He was a real asshole, but not a likable asshole. But you could see where he was coming from. He was praising people. I like that. But the likes of he done like the movie Ted, which was funny, and he's been on other movies over the years. So yeah, that'll have to give that one to Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, and then last but not least, Matthew McConaughey versus Christian Bale.
Yeah, this was an easy one for me, even though I really like both actors. It's Christian Bale for me.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I actually felt like this was a little unfair. If Matthew McConaughey versus like some other people, he would have won because I love Matthew McConaughey. I've always thought he was one of those very underappreciated actors, and I like that little run he had where people started to like appreciate him with True Detective and Dallas Buyers Club and Mud, and like they were like starting to realize, oh, he's a really good actor, not just a rom-com guy. But then you kind of like he was one of those guys when I love interviews with Matthew McConaughey. He just seems like a really like just like chilled out, cool dude. Christian Bale on the other hand seems like a very uptight guy, but he's a great actor.
Yeah. Well, I want to also say, yeah. Matthew McConaughey, I agree with you. Dallas Buyers Club, absolutely brilliant film. I think he won an Oscar for that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And then he was in Wolf of Wall Street and around the same time, and he was brilliant in that as well. which I was referencing there. But Christian
Yeah.
Bale, I think, is one of the best actors of his generation. You
Yeah,
know,
that's where it's like
you
kind of
know,
unfair. It's like
and
Christian Bale could beat all these guys, like in a lot of ways.
yeah, and Christian Bale has done so many great movies. Of course, I thought he was a great Batman,
Hmm.
even though Keaton is my favorite. I really enjoyed him as Batman,
What about
but
the voice?
the voice went a bit weird.
You don't agree with that? I think he went a little too far at points.
Yeah, he went too far. No, listen, Keaton was the first one to kind of bring that voice to the character of. Let's see, there's Marvin Monroe from The Simpsons. There's Marvin Monroe as well. But he died. He not died too. Um, but there you go. John wants to live long enough to see the Jets win
I
the
don't.
Super Bowl.
It's not going to happen. I don't care how old I live to. I could probably live to be 100. The Jets won't do it because the Jets will just find a way to. They'll bring me to the edge of hope, and then they'll pull back and shoot me.
Yeah. Well, there's this just a wee bit off topic here since you brought up about sports there. There's a journalist who's a Newcastle fan. He's in his 70s and he's still working. And he actually said last week before the final, he says, "I've told God to postpone me dying until we win something. And see when they won, he says, don't worry, I've told the big man upstairs I want to hang about for a bit longer." He says, "But on Sunday, I thought I did die and go to heaven. I had to wake up the next day and pinch myself to make sure I wasn't dead."
Oh, that's actually beautiful to hear.
That's what he said. But
Because I know that pain.
yeah, that's what he said. He absolutely brilliant. It's brilliant when you see stories like that. He's a very, very funny guy, and he's a journalist. He says, "I'm the only living journalist who was there when Newcastle won their last piece of silverware, which was a European Cup, 1968 or 69. It was 70 years for domestic trophy in England, as in,
Oh my God.
1955. But here, sorry, I was saying there about Christian Bale. Like, I was a big fan of American Psycho. I seen it years ago. I need to give it another chance. But movies like, for example, what was I going to say? The Fighter, who he won his Oscar for. I thought he was absolutely brilliant in The Fighter.
Yeah, no, he was brilliant in The Fighter. He deserved that Academy Award for that, especially if you look at the real guy who was playing, like matched up perfectly to that, like how he played it. And I still think I agree. American Psycho's his best performance. He's perfect in that role. He's always also that guy who's known for like putting his body through hell, a lot like Robert De Niro, of like getting skinny or getting fat or jacked. It's crazy.
Apparently, he put on so much weight for the first Batman, he couldn't get into the suit. And
Yeah.
they were calling him Fat Man, and he basically, yeah, I think he beefed up too much, and they went, "No, listen, you're gonna have to draw back a wee bit because you still have to fit in the suit."
And it's crazy he could just do that because that was, I think he came off The Machinist where he was actually at his absolute skinniest before Batman Begins. So he went full 180 and went too big.
Yeah. The funny story, a funny thing is the same thing kind of happened to Christopher Reeves. Was like he was like a jock. He was a big guy, and then he was doing something, and he lost a load of weight. I don't know if it was a play or it was a different movie. And when he went in the audition, he wore a load of like jumpers underneath to make him look bigger. And they kind of said to him, "Look, if you get the role, you're gonna have to bulk up. You're a bit thin." And he went, no. He says, I am naturally like 200 odd pounds. He says, I slimmed down. He says, that's why I'm wearing all these jumpers to make me look bigger. So he was actually apparently a big guy, like.
Oh, that's funny. And to circle back, it's like that's something that actors I think do is they like get told to like get skinnier because I watch wrestlers turn to actors all the time, and this happened with The Rock when he first became an actor. He lost a ton of weight, and The Rock was known for being just ripped, and it looked strange, and it didn't like work at the beginning of his career, and his career really didn't take off as an actor until he like literally he looks like a fucking boulder now. Like he's just insanely jacked. And it's just I think when they become actors, they look like they have to get like toned and thin. Because I see John Cena did this now too. He's much, much, much thinner than when he was a wrestler.
Yeah. I think when you think about one of your favorite guys, Schwarzenegger, he was kind of the same. I heard a story when he was it Conan the Barbarian? When he even auditioned, it was one of his early movies. They actually said to him, "Look, you look abnormal. You don't look like a normal body." He says you can have the muscles, but you need to look a bit more normal. And you can basically, I know he was maybe in his mid 40s by the time he done T2, but look at his body. But John,
Yeah, he's much thinner
T1
than.
and T2, yeah, he looks more. He's still got the muscle structure, but he still looks more like a normal human rather than the first movie where he's like these big shoulders and he's like the shape of like a triangle, like a V in the first Terminator, where he's not like that in the second one.
Yeah, that guy. I mean, this guy's fucking Mr. Universe. He was insanely ripped
Yeah,
and
exactly.
jacked. But I figured, why don't we end the show on like a fun question because I held you a little bit longer, and I know you're probably shot as hell.
I'm happy enough to go on as long as you need to go on.
you know. So we'll do one more question before we get out of here, and it's from Actress of Movies. If you were Batman, what three main villains would you enjoy most eager to get to be going up against the most?
Right. Okay. We'll do one each at a time here, will we? And we'll give our reasons why. Like, I love this question, by the way, Acres of Movies, because I thought this was really fun. Not that the other ones weren't fun, but this is a really fun question. So, who would you go for, John?
For me, the ones I'd be most excited about, I'll go from the bottom up. Number three, I
One,
have
one at a time.
yeah, one at a time. We'll trade one apiece. So I'll start number three
Right.
for me was the Riddler. I just think it'd be a fun game of wits with him. And I don't think I'd be as worried about him physically. I just know that I'd have to outsmart him. And I think I possibly could. I just think it'd be fun to go up against a guy like that.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm not sure what order I have these in. The Riddler may have been my number one, but I agree with you. That was the reason I picked the Riddler as well, because I feel as if that it would be fun to just put my wits against the Riddler. But I do actually find the Riddler to be one of the scariest villains because he's very unpredictable. But I do think there's part of him that is not as psychotic as the other villains.
No, I agree. He seems a little bit more. They made him a little bit more psychotic in the Batman, but he always felt a little bit more even keeled. Yeah, he's obviously crazy a little bit, but he's obviously also a genius.
Yeah, exactly. I think he is trying to outwit you rather than kill you.
Yeah, and that's kind of how they always portrayed him, like especially in like the animated series and back in the comics. He wasn't trying to really kill you. He just wanted to show that he was smarter than the world's greatest detective.
Yeah,
And that was different from a lot of his other villains who were like complete psychopaths.
yeah.
So then I guess the next one I will go with, since we both had Riddler. I had Two-Face. I just think Two-Face is one of the best characters in there. And I assume if I'm Batman that we have that back and forth from when we were friends. And I would want to try and reach the guy. I would like find the old Harvey Dent in there. Obviously, this guy was friends with Bruce Wayne back in the day, and they shared that bond. And now, I mean, the way they did in the Dark Knight, I don't want to be friends. I don't want to go after that guy because that guy's lost all his marbles. Or Two-Face is basically just a Joker in Batman Forever. But I still love it. Pat and your buddy or your brother said Poison Ivy or Catwoman. I would Selena Kyle, 100%.
Yeah, well, the set about Two-Face, I think he is like part Riddler and part Joker. That's basically the character of Two-Face.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
that
And that
that
which does make sense. He dabbles in both. I just think Tommy Lee Jones went way too jokery.
yeah, he was trying to do Jack Nicholson impression. I really liked the version in The Dark Knight, which they done, but I still feel as if they've never really captured the true essence of Two-Face. My favorite version of Two-Face is the animated series.
I just rewatched that like last week. Like, just every once in a while, throw those two back-to-back episodes on before I go to bed. I just think it's some of the best character work on television ever. Just that I
Yeah.
really want to see that Two-Face on the big screen one of these
Oh,
days.
100%. I actually have the full Blu-ray box set of the animated series, and I haven't watched it in so long. I must go back and watch it because some of them episodes are quality, John, and they would really make. I don't understand why they didn't try and make a movie version of that villain when they're making their Batman movies. To me, it's the best adoption
Yeah, I
of
don't
the character.
understand. They saw it and they wanted to do their own version of Mr. Freeze, but they got Arnold Schwarzenegger just to bang out one-liners and kind of have some of that arc.
Ice to seal, Batman.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
Yeah. But yes, my next one, Michael, funny enough, would be Catwoman.
Oh,
100%. I mean, how could you not? Like, Catwoman doesn't want to kill you, you know? She
no.
just, no, I don't think she wants to kill. I see my common theme here is picking villains that don't want to kill you. But no, and listen, we all know that there's a lot of sexual tension between Batman, Catwoman. You know what I mean? I think I would enjoy that.
No, I agree.
So, hunting down the Catwoman.
So, yeah, so that my number one, I'm guessing based on what you're talking about, they didn't make your list, was the Joker.
Well, do you want to tell me why first, and I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah, I want to go up against the best, and he's the best. So if like, I get it that he's probably the biggest threat to me and to Gotham City, but if he's number one on the villains list and I'm number one on the heroes list, I think that we have to have that ultimate Rocky style showdown. Obviously, I have a little bit different standard. I'm not going to keep throwing the guy in jail just for him to keep escaping. He's dead.
Oh, you're throwing him off a building.
Oh yeah, he's going off the building.
Yeah, I always said that, like, he just not drop him off a building for. He doesn't have to tell anybody. But anyway,
I know, like, it's like he can't go against his morals, but it's like this guy, he has no morals either. You're fighting a monster here.
yeah, exactly. And he didn't save Ra's al Ghul. So, but though I didn't pick the Joker because I just didn't want to be picking the Joker because he's so popular now. And you know what I mean? So I was like, I want to go somewhere left field here. I want to pick someone who nobody may think of, and it's a villain that appeared in the TV series. I don't think he was ever in. I don't think he was ever in the comics.
I think I know who you're picking.
Yeah, and I don't think he's ever appeared in the comics since. So he didn't even spin off from the TV show. Now we're talking the 1960s TV show, and I would pick Egghead.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to pick somebody unexpected, played by the great Vincent Price. Very similar to the Riddler, where he is trying to outsmart Batman. But the reason I picked the Egghead is because I reckon I could scramble him very easy.
Oh, that's fair. That is fair. I thought honestly you were going Clayface because Clayface has a great episode arc as well in the animated series.
It does. Yep. Another great origin story.
Yeah, so that was a great one. I asked, we actually have another question I want to answer. Kim Novak sent it. I just wait for her to respond in here so I can answer it on the show with her. We'll do it together because I haven't answered them in a while. What is this? Craven? Are you familiar with this?
Craven Moorhead, a character actor? Craven Moorhead? No.
I'm not either. Bat caused COVID, so a vaccine man would defeat him, in my opinion. That's fair. Can't argue with that. And then let's see. Here's Kim Novak's question. Do you think transgender male should play in the WNBA? So this is a question about sports. I guess this is kind of a little bit of a political question, but I don't know. Do you want to answer that?
What's the WNBA?
Women's National Basketball Association. So that's basketball over here. It's a professional women's sport.
I don't think they should.
No, and that I also don't think that. And I'll tell you why, because I'm all for transgender rights. I'm not one of those people against any of that kind of stuff. But I do have one thing with the sports. It's just because naturally when you're born, you have certain genetics. And if you're born a male or female, I don't think that I don't think it's fair either way. I don't think a man should be playing in a woman's sport, like as far as like they'll have a physical advantage. And in the reverse, I don't think a female should be in like a sport where they're going to get taken advantage of by men. If you want to be transgender, I'm cool with that. I think you kind of do forfeit your rights on playing professional sports. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree with you, John, as well, because people have got to understand as well is that because of those genetics, that males are born with, it's in your DNA, it's in your bones, and the fact of the matter is that when they transition to play in women's sports, they're infringing on women's rights. I mean, if you look at like, there's men that basically are playing a certain sport, and they're like 200 in the world, and then they transition and playing the women's sport, and they're winning it.
Yeah,
and they're not just winning it by a wee bit. Like there was a marathon runner that beat the women's record by 5 hours.
Yeah, and that's where the problem comes in. It's just not fair in that sense. I'm all for 100%. Do what you want to do with your life. Live it as you please. You should. You only get one shot at life. Don't let anyone tell you how to live it. It's just when you get into professional sports and sports in general, it could create a fair and unfair advantage.
Yep. Because I mean, I have a daughter.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I wouldn't want somebody who was born as a man, for example, competing against her, getting in a boxing ring and knocking her about the ring. I don't think it's very fair.
No, I don't agree. Don't answer, D.
D.
Political questions are a trap, but
it's a trap.
It's a trap. Yeah, no, we're not going to pick a side on that. Although This one is a little bit. The trans person to play James Bond. I just don't want them to screw around with James Bond. That's all. Just leave it as a British male.
Yeah,
I think that's the
yeah,
fair. Given just the character in general, leave him as a British male. I think that's the best way to go with James Bond. The character's got so much history, you know.
yeah, exactly. That's it's he was a male, so that's just the way it should be.
Yeah, but I fully support, just to make sure we're clear on that. Just one more question from Actors. What's better, Pacific Heights or Hand That Rocks the Cradle? I've only actually seen Pacific Heights. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen any of those movies. I heard about them growing up. I've heard that they're both very good movies, but I haven't seen any of them.
No, Pacific Heights is Michael Keaton, and it's more
Yeah,
of he's a scary as hell guy in that movie. You really don't like him.
yeah, that's right. I mean, that was one of them ones he brought out not long after, like either Batman or Batman Returns.
Yeah, that's kind of in that time where he was trying to be more of a serious actor. Like cause he it's right around that time. He also did another movie I love personally from Michael Keaton. One of my favorites is My Life.
Yes, yeah. I heard you talking about that the other day. Is that where he's dying of cancer?
Yeah, yeah. If I need a good cry, I'll always put on My Life. It's guaranteed. Michael Keaton getting cancer is it's a lock for me.
Hmm. I
So
must check them out. There's some of the older ones I need to check out. Speaking of Michael Keaton, one of my favorites is, and I told you I was going through my DVD collection at the minute and kind of like getting rid of a lot of questions, or not a question, not a DVDs. Um, the Dream Team. Have you seen the Dream Team?
yes, that's a great one. That Christopher Lloyd's in that too, isn't he?
Christopher Lloyd's on it, yeah, and who's the other guy? Peter. He was a comedian as well. Oh, I can't remember his name, but that is a comedy movie. It's very like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but it's very, very funny.
Very funny. I agree. That is a great one. That's a great one from the 80s, and so is Gung Ho. I like that one. Do you think Stallone's Judge Dredd is a bad movie? I feel like you might like this one.
I seen it on television many years ago and never felt the need to revisit it again. I don't know. I think since I've never revisited it, I'll say yes.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I liked it. This came out around the same exact time as Demolition Man, and it was funny. It's the second movie to have Rob Schneider in it with Sylvester Stallone, which I always thought was so strange in the early '90s. But I kind of enjoyed it at the time. I'm not gonna lie. It's not as good as the Dread that came out a few years later.
Yeah, I seen that one in the cinema and thought it was very good. I think, look, I need to go back and maybe watch Judge Dredd again. It's not something on my radar that what I want to do, but I heard that a lot of the criticisms about it was the fact that he walked about with his helmet off for most of the movie, and the whole point of Judge Dredd is he never takes his helmet off.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened with the Keith Urban one. He never takes his helmet off in the entire film, which is how the character's supposed to be portrayed.
Yeah, and of course, Stallone being Stallone's like, well, what's the point of me being in the movie if they can't see my face?
Well, that was like Tom Cruise wouldn't sign on for Iron Man because he's wearing a mask a lot of the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ, how big's your egos? People
Yeah.
still know you're Sylvester Stallone and Tom Cruise.
Well, that all ties into a whole different facet of things where they turn around and say, well, I want top billing. I want my name above the title of the movie. I want my name to come up first when the movie comes on. I want my face on the poster.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not enough that they're probably getting paid $20 million. They want their face out in there too.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And yeah, we do a question of the week here every week for like a digital code. I asked 3 questions I thought were great, and they'll have their choice. I'll put a poll out and I'll answer it next week. So for this week's questions of the week, we'll go with Deathstalker 83. He's kind of won a bunch. He's already got a digital code all the way. So I'm gonna remove him from this week's, even though his question is great, and try and go for some other people who haven't gotten any chances. So we'll go with Kim Novak. She hasn't gotten a chance yet. Her question about the transgender in the WNBA will be one of the questions of the week, just because you know what, you put me and David on the spot and challenged us. So you know what, that's worthy of a possible win. And then I'll go with Kevin Kruger's how would you rank the Blu-rays in your I just thought that was a good one. And last but not least, this was fun too. We'll go with Mr. Smelly Potatoes, our favorite hood childhood memories. Again, another challenging question.
Yeah, listen, I thought that was one of the best questions tonight. It was just, it's just difficult to pick a favorite childhood memory. I think, I had a very happy childhood. I suppose maybe not everybody's lucky to have a very happy childhood, and maybe if you didn't, something might spring to mind. But it's hard to pick one, isn't it?
It is very hard to pick one. I know yeah, that's true. Maybe not everyone has a great childhood, so that's fair. I mean, the thing with me was I'm still missing my childhood. Adulthood is not as fun as it was being a kid.
No, it's not. It's not. Definitely not. That's why we have those nostalgic callbacks, John.
Yeah,
trying to hang on to the because once your childhood's gone, it's gone. That's it. You're
it
never
ain't
getting it
coming
back
back.
again.
No, I always
Maybe
dream. I thought that, there would be a time machine like that would come around, but then I thought about it. I said, if time machines ever were made in the future, somebody would have come back by now, and I haven't seen that happen. So
yeah,
I don't think it's
and told
happening.
us. Yeah, come back and told us they're from the future. But I think maybe you've talked about this before. But if somebody come up to you and said, "I'm from the future," you wouldn't believe them. But
No, I wouldn't believe them. I mean, which really sucks because of all the movies. I should be the one to believe them, but I know I'd blow them off. I know I would. I honestly, David, if you were at the office one day and someone came up to you and was like, "You got to call me right now. I'm from the future." I think you'd tell that guy to fuck off.
yeah, exactly. You think they're absolutely nuts. So there's no way you would believe them, unless they actually kind of, brought you with them. And you're not going to go with them, are you? Come on down to I've got a DeLorean down here. Come on in. I'll bring you to the future. You'd be like, I'm not getting near that. I'm not getting in that car. I was told not to go in cars with strangers.
Yeah, they're like, "You're a 30-something-year-old man." I don't care. I don't go with strangers.
I don't care if you got a DeLorean. I've seen that movie.
Yeah, I've seen DeLoreans. I know what they look like.
Yeah,
But actually, that's
exactly.
one thing I like about the movie 12 Monkeys is they actually kind of deal with that where no one believes him for being a time traveler. Because of course not.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those situations where, what would you do?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm also going to include this. Well, 4 questions of the week because this was your favorite question, right?
Yeah,
Batman.
I thought this was fun. I thought this was fun, and I didn't realize like I am a Batman fan, but when I actually looked it up, I was like, what other villains is there? And there's like he's got an abundance of villains that I didn't even know about.
Like Calendar Man is a real villain that's in that universe.
Yeah, exactly, and yeah, so there's so many you can pick from. But growing up as we have grew up with those more popular villains, initially you're gonna go, oh, that one, that one, that one.
Yeah, of course. You're always going to pick your favorites. I wanted to stay away from the Joker, but I thought I liked the heavyweight battle idea, so that's why I had to include that.
Yeah, well, the Joker for me for many years was my favorite villain of all time. Do you know what I mean? But then once he became so popular, it's now I've kind of stepped away a wee bit from the Joker. I think we've been saturated too much with the Joker. But in reflection, he should never have been my favorite because when you've got villains like Norman Bates, and things like that, the Terminator and the Shark from Jaws, like they're all up there.
Yeah, exactly. You fall in love with. I think that's just we had 2 Jokers. I mean, yeah, you had Romero's Joker from the '60s for a long time, but we had the 2 Jokers for so long. Now we've gotten so many different ones. Now they're teasing a Joker again for the new Batman series. It's like, hey, I would have been okay if they would have left one out for a while.
Well, I feel as if I feel as if that I seen the '89 movie with Nicholson, and like we didn't have any other Jokers apart from like the animated series and Romero for like how many years? Almost 20 years, right? But I just feel as if the incarnations that have came since Heath Ledger are getting further and further and further away from the source material to the point where the Joker isn't even recognizable anymore. It's just a crazy guy with face paint. It could be anybody, and I don't like that. So they need to get back to the source material.
Yeah, I agree. We just had a Joker musical. I think we've gone far enough now, right?
I still want to watch. I still want to watch that.
Oh, I'm gonna watch it too. I just got to make the time for it. It's just that you know how when you hear movies so bad, it's hard to get the energy and time to get. Like I'm gonna spend my free time doing this right now.
Yeah. No, listen, I've seen it and it was going for like £10, I think, in one of our local stores down here, the Blu-ray. And I was so tempted to pick it up because I was like £10. And then I was like, but if I'm gonna watch it, I should watch it in 4K. And I looked it up and the 4K is like £20. And I was like, I'm not paying it for that. It will come down at some stage.
Oh yeah.
And listen and see the like the shop I was in. All the Blu-rays that were on release that week, there was only 1 or 2 of them left. There was about 5 copies of that movie sitting there. Nobody had even touched them.
Yeah, nobody wants to touch him.
Yeah, so I thought this will definitely come down in price.
Who would win in a fight, Ripley from Aliens or Sarah Connor from Terminator 2?
Well, I've thought about this. I've literally thought about this. Um, I would pick Ripley because Ripley for me is naturally a badass, whereas Sarah Connor had to learn to be a badass.
Yes, and I think I agree with you for that exact reason. Like she was a badass. We just didn't realize it in the first one. She actually in the first Aliens movie, like we just at the first half, you're like, oh, she's not the star, and then you realize, oh, she's the only one who's going to survive. And then in
Yep.
Alien, that's it. She's like that, 100%. But for Sarah Connor in the first movie, she's really a damsel in distress. By the end, she pulls through, and then she's been training by the time you get to T2.
Yep. Listen. You're the expert in the Terminator. But I totally agree with you there. Whereas like Ripley had this inner strength that she kind of maybe didn't know she had. To me, Ripley was always kind of tough, right? And she had to bring this toughness through to defeat the alien in the first movie, and then even more so in the second movie, defeating an alien queen and all the rest. Whereas like Sarah Connor did have this inner strength that she didn't know she had, but she had to be taught to bring it out. And I feel as if she had to work hard for that toughness in the second movie. Whereas I don't think it naturally comes with Sarah Connor.
Also, one thing I just thought about is in Aliens, she beats the Queen by herself, whereas in Terminator 2, the T-800's the one who beats the T-1000.
And even in the first movie, when eventually she destroys the T-800, she would never have done that without Kyle Reese's help. Yeah, without Michael Biehn's help, without Kyle Reese's help, and telling her that she was tough and that she could do it and everything else, which, it's interesting for a character. Of course it is. But if we're just breaking it down as in who would win in a fight, I do think Ripley would ultimately win.
Should be a scrappy fight.
It would be a good fight, but they would be kind of evenly matched in a lot of ways, because remember we talked about this, who would win the fight, Ripley or Vasquez, and we both agreed Ripley, because Ripley would have too much for her, right? Whereas like I feel as if height, ways, stature, strength, Sarah Connor and Ripley would be very similar.
Yeah, I agree. As far as their physiques and stuff, like, if we put them in a UFC ring, just go for their strengths, it'd be a good close fight, I think.
Yeah, it would be a good one. Do you remember the show Celebrity Deathmatch?
Loved Celebrity Deathmatch.
That's what we need. We need a Ripley versus Sarah Connor Celebrity Deathmatch.
Surprised they never did it. That show, I think they tried to bring it back like 10 years ago, but just, not the same as the 90s and 2000s.
No,
it was a moment in time.
Yeah, probably be all CGI now.
Oh yeah, they'd ruin it. But anyway, I think we're gonna get out of here. I just want to thank you, man, for joining me here on the show. I really do appreciate it.
No, thanks very much, John. I appreciate it. And I just want to say thanks to everybody else who's joined and sent questions in. It's been fun. The 2 hours have flew in, and I hope that you are watching the show that me and John do as well, because I thoroughly enjoy doing it. I hope you are enjoying it.
Yeah, I've said it a million times. I've said it to David a million times privately. It's like, that's my favorite thing to do. I look so forward to doing our show, and it's just like that show flies by when we do it together. And these 2 hours flew by, and I hope you. I know it's late there. I hope you like to come back.
Oh yeah, definitely come back again.
So I hope, maybe we can pencil one in the next, because I won't have one this Thursday, the next Saturday, guys. I told you I'll have a live show where I'm going to rank the Tony Scott movies from worst to first in place of it. So no live show next Saturday, but maybe we'll pencil you in for one in April. I got to look at the schedule still.
Yeah, no problem at all. Sure, we'll try and work something out, John. Maybe we can do something over Easter or something like that.
That's a good point, actually. Forgot about that. That's a good point.
Maybe we'll do something then. Michael, thanks very much for joining the show.
And George.
And George, thank you, George.
Thank you, guys. And we'll be seeing you around. Thanks for being here, guys.